The morning sun sliced through the blinds of the luxurious hotel suite, illuminating a scene of disarray. Clothes were strewn across the floor, a silent testament to a wild night. A groan escaped Sujinuan's lips as she stirred from a deep, heavy sleep. Her head was pounding, a relentless drum against her skull. She blinked, trying to clear the fog from her mind, when a shadow in the bathroom doorway caught her eye. Steam billowed out, revealing the silhouette of a man. Her heart leaped into her throat. A man? Here? Her eyes shot wide with panic, and she frantically clutched the thin sheet to her chest. What happened? How did she get here? And who was he? The memories came rushing back in fractured pieces. The party. It was her friend's birthday party last night, right here in this hotel. She remembered the sweet taste of fruit juice, but there was something else in it, something that made the room spin and her legs feel like jelly. She'd stumbled out into the hallway, trying to find her way back, when her ankle twisted in her ridiculous heels. She was falling, bracing for impact, but instead of the hard floor, she fell into a pair of strong arms. A low, smooth voice murmured for her to be careful. Looking up, she saw the most handsome man she'd ever laid eyes on. The alcohol coursing through her veins made her bold. She heard herself giggle, her fingers tracing the lapel of his suit as she purred that he had a great physique. A ghost of a smile touched his lips, a dangerous glint in his eyes as he warned her she was playing with fire. And then, a kiss. His lips were on hers, and the world dissolved into a blur of pure sensation. His hands were everywhere. Her skin tingled at his touch. She remembered pulling at his tie, wanting him closer, and then he was on top of her, his weight a comforting pressure. Her fingers explored the hard planes of his chest. Marveling at the strength beneath his shirt, he'd asked her if she knew what she was doing. And with a hazy, confident smile, she'd whispered that she was touching him. Couldn't he feel it? The rest was a whirlwind of tangled limbs and whispered words. A night of unrestrained passion where he'd simply told her to relax. The memory ended and cold, hard reality crashed down on her. Oh God, she hadn't just had a one-night stand. She had pounced on a complete stranger. Mortification burned through her. I need to leave, she thought. I need to get out of here before he wakes up. Tiptoeing out of bed, she grabbed for her bra, but in her haste, her foot slipped. Thud, the sound echoed in the silent room. She froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. Peeking over the edge of the bed, she saw him emerge from the bathroom. A towel slung low on his hips, water dripping from his perfectly sculpted abs. It was him, the handsome stranger. Huo Lchin, the heir to the entire Huo consortium. His voice, cool and steady, cut through the air as he asked if she was awake. Panic seized her. She dove under the covers, her voice muffled as she squeaked for him not to come over. Fumbling in the darkness, she wriggled back into her dress from the night before. The man, seemingly unfazed, picked up a pen and began to write something on a notepad. When she finally emerged, fully clothed, his gaze met hers. It was icy, devoid of the passion from the night before. His words were like daggers, sharp and cruel. He told her that her skills were terrible, but since she had entertained him all night, he would give her payments. He held out a check. Payment, a check, the implication hit her like a slap in the face. He thought she was a call girl. She was stunned into silence, her mind reeling. He mistook her shock for dissatisfaction, a condescending smirk playing on his lips as he asked if it was too little. That was the final straw. A cold fury washed over her. Snatching her purse, she mirrored his icy tone, her words dripping with sarcasm. His skills were so bad, she shot back that her waist was sore and her legs were cramping. She rummaged in her bag, pulled out a single coin, and flicked it through the air. It landed with a soft clink on the table beside him. That, she declared, was his payment for sleeping with her. Without another glance, she spun on her heel and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. He stood there momentarily stunned before his eyes fell to the check she had left on the bed. It wasn't a check, it was her ID. A slow, dangerous smile spread across his face as he read her name. Sujinuan, he murmured. You have successfully captured my attention. Outside, Jinuan walked briskly past the hotel pool, her mind still racing from the morning's encounter. She shook her head, trying to clear it. She had more important things to worry about. She still had to get to the hospital to pay for her little brother's medical fees. Suddenly, a hand shoved her hard from behind. She gasped, losing her balance, and tumbled into the cold water with a huge splash. Sputtering, she looked up to see a sickeningly familiar face looking down at her. It was her half-sister, Kingwin, flanked by her snickering friends. Sis, you're so careless, Kingwin said, her voice oozing fake concern while the others laughed. Quickly grab onto my hand, she offered, kneeling by the pool's edge, a malicious smile playing on her lips. Jinuan hesitated, not trusting the look in her sister's eyes. But she needed to get out. As she reached for Kingwin's hand, her sister let out a piercing scream, yanking her arm back as if Jinuan had tried to pull her in. With a dramatic splash, Kingwin threw herself into the pool. The moment they were both underwater, Kingwin's sweet facade vanished. She grabbed Jinuan, her grip like iron, and shoved her head under the surface, holding her down. Panic clawed at Jinuan's chest. Water filled her nose and mouth. She struggled, her lungs burning, desperate for air. Just as her vision started to blacken, Kingwin pulled her back up. Gasping and coughing, Jinuan felt her sister's hot breath against her ear. Your breath was taken away, Kingwin whispered, her voice a venomous hiss. How did it feel? She pulled back, her face a mask of innocent beauty as she asked, "It's fun, isn't it?" Kingwin's friends called out for her to get out of the water. That was all the distraction Jinuan needed. She'd had enough. With a surge of adrenaline, she lunged forward and grabbed a fistful of Kingwin's wet hair. Her sister yelped, sputtering and asking what she wanted. Jinuan's voice was deathly calm. "I don't want anything," she said, her grip tightening. "I just want to give you a friendly reminder, don't play such boring and childish tricks in the future, because if there's a next time," she leaned in closer, "my hand might not let go so quickly." With a final, vicious shove, she released her sister and swam to the ladder, hauling herself out of the pool and leaving a furious, spluttering Kingwin in her wake. Soaking wet, Jinuan walked through the hotel lobby, ignoring the stares and whispers of the people around her. A deep chill had settled into her bones, and she wrapped her arms around herself, shivering uncontrollably. A sudden loud sneeze escaped her. Just then, a heavy jacket was draped over her shoulders, its warmth seeping into her cold skin. She looked up, her eyes widening in disbelief. It was him, Huo Lchin. His voice was a low, seductive murmur next to her ear. "If you want them to see everything," he said, his gaze sweeping over the gawking crowd, "feel free to decline my jacket." She was too stunned to speak, simply stammering a thank you and promising to return it. He then asked where she was going, offering her a ride. The memory of their night together flashed through her mind, and a hot blush crept up her neck. She politely declined, saying it was fine, and tried to hurry away, but his hand shot out and grabbed her arm, stopping her in her tracks. He pulled her back against his chest, his body warm and solid against hers. Her heart hammered against her ribs. What was he doing? He leaned in, his thumb gently caressing her lower lip. "Your scent is making me restless," he whispered, his voice husky, tempting me to continue. Her mind went blank. Was he insane? They spent the entire night together and he still hadn't had enough. Snapping back to her senses, she pushed him away firmly. She told him she was drunk last night, that they were both adults, and it was best if they didn't get involved any further. With a final, hurried goodbye, she fled, practically running out of the hotel. Huo Lchin watched her go, a curious smile on his lips. He glanced down at the ID still in his hand. "Surname is Su," he mused. What a coincidence. In the taxi, Jinuan's heart was still pounding from the encounter. She directed the driver to Central Hospital, her brother's treatment being her only priority. But at the payment counter, disaster struck. The receptionist informed her that her card had insufficient funds. "That's impossible," Jinuan cried, asking her to swipe it again. The result was the same. A knot of dread tightened in her stomach. At a nearby ATM, her worst fears were confirmed. Her balance was a meager 990 yuan. The foundation her grandfather set up was supposed to cover everything, especially her younger brother's leukemia treatments. Without that money, his treatment would stop. The consequences were unthinkable. A cold, hard fury settled over her. They had finally crossed the line. She stormed into the Su family mansion like a hurricane, demanding to see her father. Her path was blocked by her stepmother, who smugly informed her that her father was with an important guest and couldn't be disturbed. Jinuan tried to push past, her voice tight with desperation, insisting that she needed to speak with him. Her stepmother sneered, telling her to get lost and stop making a fool of herself. "Do you think you can stop me?" Jinuan challenged. Enraged, her stepmother raised a hand to strike her, but Jinuan was faster, catching her wrist in a vice-like grip. "Just try hitting me," she dared, her voice dangerously low. "I dare you." At that moment, the study door creaked open, and her father Su Zhengsheng appeared, his face a mask of disapproval. "How improper of you to cause such a commotion," he bellowed. Ignoring him, Jinuan got straight to the point. "Did you stop my living expenses?" His answer was colder than ice. He callously stated that her brother was not his problem and that he'd cut her off to motivate her. As if on cue, Kingwin appeared with a tray of coffee, playing the part of the dutiful daughter and making Jinuan look even more unruly. Her father's decision was final. The foundation was cut off. "Father," Jinuan cried out in despair. Suddenly, with a theatrical gasp, Kingwin tripped, sending the scalding hot coffee flying not at herself but directly at Jinuan. The dark liquid soaked through Huo Lchin's jacket. "I'm sorry, sister," Kingwin said with a triumphant smirk. My hand slipped. Just as the chaos reached its peak, a cold, authoritative voice cut through the air. "What are you doing here?" Everyone turned. Standing in the doorway was the important guest, Huo Lchin. His eyes landed on Jinuan and then on the red, angry burn mark on her wrist where the coffee had splashed her skin. His expression darkened. He strode forward, grabbing her arm gently and examining the burn. "Burn cream," he commanded, his voice leaving no room for argument. He pulled Jinuan behind him, shielding her from her stunned family. His gaze fell on Kingwin. "Whether it was intentional or not," he said coolly, "only you know the truth." Kingwin immediately burst into tears, playing the victim and daring Jinuan to hit her if she didn't believe her pathetic act. Without a second of hesitation, Jinuan stepped forward and slapped her hard across the face. Her father exploded with rage, but Jinuan simply stated, "She offered, I just granted her wish." She turned back to her father, her pride giving way to desperation. "Dad, I really need that money." She warned him that she would take legal action if she had to. Finally, worn down, her father agreed to transfer one last month's allowance. Relief washed over her. She took off the ruined jacket and handed it to Lchin, apologizing for the mess. As she turned to leave, her father, ever the opportunist, asked young Master Huo if he knew his daughter. A slow smirk spread across Lchin's face. "We've been intimately acquainted," he replied, leaving the entire Su family speechless. As the front door closed, Kingwin's face twisted into a mask of pure hatred. "Don't think just because he slept with you he's yours," she seethed to herself. "Since I was little, anything I've ever wanted, I've always gotten." Back in her room, Jinuan was about to shut the door when a hand stopped it. It was Huo Lchin. He had followed her. "What do you want?" she asked, her heart beginning to race again. He held up a small tube of burn ointment with a lazy grin. "You're in your own home, what do you think I can do?" he teased. He told her he would help her apply it, but she refused, trying to back away. In an instant, he had her pinned against the wall. His presence overwhelming. "Has anyone ever told you you're overbearing?" he murmured, his voice a low caress. She retorted that she was only overbearing with certain people. "Guess I'm just unlucky then," he whispered, leaning closer, before tilting her chin up with his finger. "Or perhaps," he corrected himself, his eyes glinting, "I'd say you're honored." Before she could process his words, he swept her off her feet and into his arms. "Put me down, you bastard," she cried, struggling against him. He ignored her protests, carrying her to the bed and laying her down gently. "What do you think you're doing?" she demanded, her cheeks flushed. He leaned over her, his shadow falling across her face. "What do you think I'm doing?" he echoed, his voice dropping to a husky whisper. "Next time someone dares to treat you like this, I won't go easy on them." He uncapped the ointment. "Now, let me apply the ointment for you." Oh, so it was just about the ointment. A wave of embarrassed relief washed over her. He carefully and gently tended to her burn, his expression serious and focused. Damn, she thought, this beast looks ridiculously handsome when he's serious. From the cracked open doorway, Kingwin watched them, her heart filled with a poisonous jealousy. "Why her?" she fumed silently. "I should be the one marrying young Master Huo." Once he was finished, Lchin stood up. "You must be tired after last night, get some rest." Jinuan flushed, muttering for him to stop bringing that up. She tried to get up, saying she had work to do, but he gently pushed her back down onto the beds. This man, he was impossible. He walked to the door and she let out a sigh of relief. He was finally leaving. But then he paused, his hand on the doorknob. He turned back just a fraction, a hint of a smile on his lips. "Huo Lchin," he said, "my name." The name echoed in her mind. Huo Lchin? Why did that sound so familiar? Where had she heard that name before? Her mind reeled, the world spinning in a dizzying blur of shock and disbelief. Well, it couldn't be, it just couldn't. The man from last night, the one she'd mistaken for a high-class gigolo, was none other than Huo Lchin, the sole heir to the colossal Huo group. A notification pinged on her phone, a stark reminder of her desperate situation. 25,000 yuan deposited into her account. A wave of relief washed over her, so potent it almost brought her to her knees. At least the money came through, she thought, a bittersweet comfort. Without this, her brother, he would have been done for, but this was just a temporary fix. What about next month's medical fees? A fire ignited in her eyes. She pumped a tiny fist in the air, a silent vow to herself. "Go ahead, make things difficult for me. If you don't break me, you lose." A sharp, condescending voice sliced through her thoughts. Her father, Su Zhengxing, stood before her, a sickly sweet smile plastered on his face as he mentioned her connection to young Master Huo. Jinyuan's lips curled into a silent, bitter sneer. "Huh." She turned to face him, her eyes as cold as chips of ice. She told him flatly that there was absolutely nothing between them. If he was hoping to use her to get close to the Huo family, he could save his breath. His smile vanished, replaced by a mask of twisted fury. He spat out that he was just concerned about her. "Concern?" Jinyuan let out a laugh devoid of any warmth. "Wow, Dad, I'm so flattered," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I didn't know the word concern even existed in your dictionary." His face turned purple with rage as he bellowed, demanding to know what kind of attitude this was. But Jinyuan was already gone, his empty rage echoing behind her. At the hospital, the doctor's words were a strange mix of hope and crushing weight. They had found a matching bone marrow donor for her brother Yuan, but the surgery costs 500,000 yuan, 500,000. The number felt like a physical blow. Jinyuan's eyes swam with unshed tears, but her voice was steady as she promised the doctor she would discuss it with her family. Her family? What a joke. Staring through the glass at her frail brother lying in the hospital bed, her heart ached with a fierce, protective love. "Yuan," she whispered to the glass, her breath fogging the pain. "Your sister will find a way to get the money for your surgery. Soon you'll be healthy again." She clutched her phone, her knuckles white. It was only one way, a desperate last-ditch plan. She made the call, her voice firm, betraying none of the turmoil inside. She asked her friend to help her set up some blind dates. The kind where if they clicked, they could go straight to getting the marriage license. Her father had dangled her grandfather's inheritance over her head for years, the one condition being her marriage. Fine, if he wanted a wedding, she'd give him one. She would get married right in his face. 3 days later, she sat in a sunlit cafe, stirring a cup of coffee she had no intention of drinking. Her date, a man named Yang Zifeng, beamed at her from across the table. He gushed about how she was even prettier in person, with fair skin, just his type. From a nearby table hidden in plain sight, a pair of dark, intense eyes watched her every move. Jinuan cut straight to the chase, asking if he was aware of her requirements. The man's smile widened. Oh, he was, and he had a few of his own. He owned a house, he boasted, so marrying him wouldn't be a loss for her. But he would need her dowry, her family's company shares to support his business ventures, and since his parents had no income, he expected her trust fund to cover their retirement. $1,000,000 car from her dowry would be ideal too. Jinuan's expression grew colder with every word, but he wasn't finished. Their family was traditional, he explained, so he would expect at least 2 sons. And if they kept having daughters, he shrugged, then they would just keep trying, of course. The Yang family line couldn't end with him. The sheer audacity of it all was breathtaking. Jinuan slammed her hand on the table, her eyes blazing with fury. What do you think women are? She seethed, breeding sows. She told the delusional man to get lost. As she looked up, her heart plummeted into her stomach. Standing just a few feet away, watching the entire disaster unfold, was Huo Lchin. Damn it, why is he here? A hot flush of shame crept up her neck. How much of that idiot's speech did he hear? She wanted the ground to swallow her whole. Before she could flee, he was beside her, his voice a low, amused purr. Darling, he said, the word sending a jolt through her. What a coincidence. Mind if I sit next to you? His hand landed on her head, a casual, possessive pat that made her choke on her coffee, spraying it across the table. She sputtered apologies to the stunned Yang Zifeng, who was now glaring at Huo Lchin. He demanded to know who this rude man was and why he was calling his date darling. Panicked, Jinuan blurted out that she didn't know him. Yang Zifeng's face contorted in rage, but just as he was about to explode, a flicker of recognition crossed his face. His eyes widened. Young Master Huo? He stammered, remembering him from a banquet. The change was instantaneous. Yang Zifeng scrambled to his feet, his anger replaced with fawning adoration as he eagerly shook Huo Lchin's hand. He was suddenly the perfect host, pulling out a chair for the esteemed young Master Huo, insisting he join them. He chattered on, declaring that any friend of Miss Sue's was a friend of his. Jinuan tried to cut in, insisting they weren't friends at all, but was silenced by a sudden pressure against her leg under the table. Her eyes shot wide open. Huo Lchin was rubbing his foot against her calf. What the hell, this pervert? He leaned back, a lazy smirk playing on his lips, and told young Zifeng that she was just joking. Given how intimately acquainted they were, he mused, friends was an understatement. The idiotic date bought it completely, his face lighting up. He declared it was wonderful and that he agreed to all her terms, they could get married right away. All the while, Huo Lchin's foot slid higher, a bold, possessive touch that made her skin crawl. That was the last straw. She kicked his leg away with a sharp cry, you creep. Yang Zifeng looked utterly bewildered, but Jinuan's rage was now fully directed at him. She called him a sleazy scammer, pointing out how he was already eyeing her assets before they were even married. She spat out his disgusting demands. She was to support his parents, buy him a luxury car, and be his baby-making machine. If he wanted a sugar mommy, he should go find a rich cougar because this young lady was way out of his league. She finally screamed at him to get the hell out. Frustrated and humiliated, Yang Zifeng sneered at her. He insulted her flat chest, saying even if she paid him, he wouldn't want her. Without a second thought, Jinuan grabbed her cup and hurled the remaining coffee straight into his face. He shrieked, clutching his stained shirt, demanding she pay for his suit that cost tens of thousands. Jinuan's laugh was sharp and dangerous. How about I give you my life instead? She snarled, calling him a psycho. As she turned to leave, his hand shot out and grabbed her arm. But before he could tighten his grip, another hand, strong and unyielding, clamped down on his shoulder. Huo Lchin stood over him, his expression murderous. You dare insult my woman? He asked, his voice a deadly whisper. The man began to tremble, stammering that he didn't know she was his. Huo Lchin's eyes narrowed into slits. He warned the man that if he ever dared to insult her again, he would personally cut out his tongue. With a violent shove, he sent the man sprawling to the floor. Outside, the city air did little to cool her anger. She was on the phone, screaming at the matchmaker. Were you trying to push me into a pit of fire? The woman on the other end sighed, explaining that Jinuan's requirements were just too specific. Jinuan's anger deflated, replaced by the heavy weight of despair. If I weren't desperate, she confessed, I wouldn't gamble with my own marriage. Her friend's voice softened, offering the 50,000 yuan she'd saved over the years. Tears welled in Jinuan's eyes. Thank you, she whispered, her heart aching with gratitude. She ended the call, the weight of the world on her shoulders. As she walked, the distinct sound of footsteps echoed hers. A prickle of fear ran down her spine. Someone was following her. Her grip tightened on her purse as a large shadow fell over her. Was she about to be robbed? Suddenly, a hand seized her wrist, spinning her around. Her breath hitched. It was Huo Lchin. His grip was like iron as he pulled her close, his voice a low growl. Is this how you treat the man who's had you? He asked. Jinuan stared at him, her heart hammering against her ribs. Huo Lchin, are you insane? He was haunting her and she demanded to know what he wanted. He leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. For 3 nights, he whispered, he hadn't slept at all. Because of her? She scoffed, asking what her insomnia had to do with him. His lips brushed her cheek as he answered with a single, devastating word. Everything. He claimed she caused it, and now he demanded compensation. Before she could process the sheer audacity of his words, his mouth was on hers. Her eyes flew open, shock coursing through her. He was kissing her. She tried to push him away, but his domineering presence was a cage, overwhelming her senses. His kiss was relentless, making it hard to breathe, hard to think. It was like poisoned honey, a dangerous sweetness that was impossible to resist. Against her will, she felt her body relax, melting into his embrace. They stood locked together on a public staircase, lost in the moment, until a small voice shattered the spell. "Mommy, look," a child called out. "What are that uncle and auntie doing?" The mother, mortified, quickly stammered that they were just wrestling and hurried her child away. The innocent words were like a splash of cold water. Embarrassment flooded Jinuan's cheeks. This man was relentless. She pushed at him again, a frantic, useless effort. He was a wall of muscle, impossible to move. Finally, he pulled back, a smug look in his eyes. She gasped for air, glaring at him with all the fury she could muster. "Huo Lchin, you pervert." He merely smirked, his hand still holding hers tightly. She ripped her hand from his grasp and fled, her heart pounding. "Jerk," she yelled over her shoulder, his voice calm and steady stopped her in her tracks. "Sujinuan." He watched her, his expression unreadable. "You're the woman I've chosen." He smiled, a slow, confident curve of his lips as he watched her run. "Did you really think you could run?" With his hands in his pockets, he began to follow. The neon glow of the Binyan nightclub cast long shadows across the city. Inside, Jinuan, now dressed in a waitress uniform, took a tray of expensive drinks from her senior. Sister Zia reminded her that the people in room 606 were all rich heirs, and the tips would be huge. Jinuan smiled gratefully. Sister Zia was a kind soul who always looked out for her, knowing she was desperate for money to cover her brother's medical bills. She knocked on the door and entered the VIP room. The air was thick with the stench of smoke and alcohol, making her nose wrinkle in disgust. Her only thought was to set down the drinks and get out as fast as possible. As she carefully placed the bottles on the table, someone slammed into her from behind. A man reeking of liquor snarled at her, demanding to know if she was new and trying to get fired. She quickly tried to apologize, but another, more familiar voice cut her off. "Oh, you think young Master Zhu is someone you can just casually apologize to?" Jinuan froze, her blood ran cold as she turned and saw the smug face of her cousin, Kingwin. She was here too, of course she was. The two of them stood before her, blocking her escape. Young Master Zhu sneered, pulling out a thick stack of cash from his wallet. With a flick of his wrist, he sent the bills flying into the air, a cruel rain of money fluttering down around her. He ordered her to pick up every single bill, but there was a catch. She wasn't allowed to use her hands. She had to kneel on the ground like a dog and pick them up with her mouth. Kingwin's friend cheered, praising the humiliating idea. A wicked smile spread across Kingwin's face as she raised her phone. "Bitch," she purred, "so you've finally fallen into my hands." Her plan was clear: record Jinuan's degradation and show it to Huo Lchin, ensuring he'd never want anything to do with her again. A cold dread washed over Jinuan. She knew with chilling certainty that she wouldn't be walking out of this room unharmed tonight, but she wasn't going down without a fight. In a flash, she lunged forward, snatching the phone from Kingwin's grasp. Kingwin shrieked in surprise. Jinuan backed away, grabbing a bottle from the table and smashing it against the edge. Holding the jagged glass neck like a dagger, her voice trembled, but her eyes were filled with a wild, desperate fire. She warned them that if anyone came near her, she would slash their neck. The room of pampered elites stared back, stunned into silence. "You're all pampered young masters and misses," she cried. "But I'm just a worthless life. I'm not afraid to die. Don't believe me, then try me." One of Kingwin's friends whispered that she was all talk, that she wouldn't dare. Jinuan's eyes locked onto her cousin. "Oh, you think I won't dare?" She challenged, her thumb hovering over the dial pad. "Since you're so brave, why don't you come over here yourself?" The numbers 1-1-0 were clearly visible on the screen. Kingwin paled, stammering as she hid behind young Master Zhu. Disgusted, he shoved her away, calling her useless trash. He glared at Jinuan, his pride wounded. "You've got guts," he spat. "Don't let me see you again." With that, he stormed out, his entourage trailing behind him like scared puppies. The room was suddenly silent. Jinuan called out to a frozen Kingwin and tossed the phone back to her. "Here's your phone," she said, her voice laced with contempt. "Now get lost." Kingwin snatched her phone, her face a mask of hatred. "Don't get cocky, Sujinuan," she hissed. "One day I'll make you pay." Jinuan met her gaze without flinching. "I'll be waiting." The door slammed shut, and the sound echoed in the empty room. The strength drained from Jinuan's body and her legs gave out. She collapsed onto a nearby sofa, gasping for breath. It was only now that the terror truly hit her. Her heart hammered against her ribs. They outnumbered her. If things had gotten physical, she would have been beaten badly. A new wave of anxiety washed over her. She'd have to explain this to Sister Zia later. She had probably caused a world of trouble for her. A soft click from the corner of the room made her jump. Her head snapped up, her body instantly tense again. "Who's there?" A figure stepped out from the shadows, impeccably dressed in a black suit. Her breath caught in her throat. It was Huo Lchin. Her world felt like it was crumbling, the glitzy lights of the club mocking her cheap waitress uniform. And then she saw him. Her heart stopped. Why now? Her mind screamed in silent agony. Every single time she was at her most miserable, her most broken, he would appear like a phantom from her nightmares. What kind of cursed fate was this? He stood there, a king in his dark, tailored suit, looking down at the chaos of the room as if he owned it all. And in that moment, she felt like nothing more than a bug under his shoe. His gaze, cold and piercing, drifted through the crowd before landing directly on her. A jolt shot through her as their eyes met. Before she could even process the shock, a force slammed into her and she was suddenly yanked forward. A gasp escaped her lips as her feet left the ground, her body tumbling through the air. You, she stammered, landing with a soft thud on the plush velvet of the sofa right beside him. Her mind was a whirlwind of confusion and panic. What in the world was he doing? She scrambled to sit up, her cheeks burning with humiliation as she asked what he thought he was doing. He simply leaned closer, his voice a low, commanding whisper that sent shivers down her spine. Be good. His eyes, deep and unreadable, scanned her face as if searching for something. He tilted his head, a ghost of a smirk playing on his lips as he asked, his voice dripping with condescending curiosity, why she was working in such a dangerous place. His fingers, cool and firm, suddenly brushed against her skin, tilting her chin up to meet his gaze. Her breath hitched, her heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. I don't need money, she thought, a defiant spark igniting in her wide, startled eyes. He leaned in even closer, the scent of his expensive cologne overwhelming her senses. He asked if she needed money, then why not just take his? The audacity of it shattered her composure. All the frustration, the humiliation, the sheer unfairness of her life boiled over. She slapped his hand away, her voice trembling with rage as she shrieked what he took her for, some kind of prostitute. He didn't even flinch. A slow, infuriating smile spread across his face. Of course not, he purred, his eyes glinting with a predatory light. But if I can conquer you like this? The words hung in the air, a blatant, disgusting proposition. He wanted to make a deal. He told her to name her price, to just stay with him for 1 month. Her mind went blank. You mean you want to buy me? You want to buy me like a plaything? The thought was so vile, so degrading, her fist clenched at her side until her knuckles turned white. He laid out his twisted logic with chilling calm. Needed money and he needed her. He would solve her material problems if she would solve his. Physical ones, what was wrong with that? In his mind, it was a simple transaction, a way to get this strange, infuriating woman out of his system. Just 1 month, he thought, and he'd be bored of her, then he wouldn't feel this strange pull anymore. But to her, it was the ultimate insult. In the eyes of rich people like him, was everything just a commodity to be bought and sold? Fury, pure and untamed, erupted from her core. She demanded to know if he really thought his money could buy anything and everything. A strange thought flickered through his mind even as she glared at him with such hatred. Even when they're angry, they're so sexy, I must be sick. The thought was cut short by the sharp, stinging crack of her hand across his face. She stood over him, her entire body trembling with rage, her eyes blazing. The room fell silent. He slowly turned his head back, his hand rising to touch his reddening cheek, a look of pure disbelief on his face. No one had ever dared to strike him. She met his stunned gaze without flinching, her chin held high as she spat that she would not apologize. In a flash, his hand shot out, grabbing her chin in a vice-like grip. His voice was a low, dangerous growl laced with ice and murder. You want to die. The air crackled with tension. His eyes narrowed, blazing with a cold fury she had never seen before. He commanded her to get out right now. With one last glare, he turned his back and stalked away. The moment he was gone, the strength drained from her legs. She leaned against the wall, panting, her heart threatening to beat out of her chest. That scared me to death, she thought, pressing a hand to her chest. Someone so arrogant had probably never been hit in his entire life. But what choice did she have? He had insulted her dignity. A part of her wished she'd hit him even harder. Shaking her head, she tried to pull herself together. She had to get back to work. As she walked away, she overheard the whispers of her coworkers. Young Master Huo was finally breaking his fast. How exciting. Another girl chimed in, asking if young Master Huo wasn't supposed to be celibate. Jinuan's curiosity was piqued. She asked what they were talking about. One of the girls leaned in conspiratorially, revealing that young Master Huo had just told the manager to find 10 beautiful women for him. Jinuan felt a strange pang in her chest as she asked which young Master Huo they meant. The name hit her like a physical blow. Huo Lchin. The wine bottle in her hand suddenly felt like lead. 10 women, after what he just proposed to her? The utter disgust she felt was suffocating. A coworker patted her shoulder, misinterpreting her pale face for jealousy. She told Jinuan not to worry, that a jewel like her would surely be picked next time. Jinuan shoved her hand away, her voice laced with venom. Even if all the men in the world died, I wouldn't want him, she hissed, disgusting. The other girls just rolled their eyes, whispering that it was just sour grapes. Men are all trash, she muttered, walking away, her blood boiling. Then she saw it. Down the hall, her so-called sister, Kingwin, was helping a very drunk man into a room, and the man, he looked so familiar. Jinuan's eyes widened in shock. Where had she seen him before? Inside the room, Kingwin struggled with the man's dead weight, dumping him on the bed. He mumbled incoherently, asking for a drink. Kingwin's smile was sickly sweet as she cooed at him, but her eyes were cold and calculating as she slipped his wallet from his pocket. Heaven helps those who help themselves, she thought with a smirk. Even if he wasn't her main target, he would still be useful. But as she rifled through his wallet, she found something unexpected. A bone marrow donation receipt. Kingwin's eyes narrowed. The hospital listed was the same one where that bastard was staying, and Jinuan was working in a place like this for money. For surgery money, it couldn't be a coincidence. A cruel, vicious plan began to form in her mind as she tossed the wallet aside. She would investigate this later. For now, she had other plans for the man in the bed. Meanwhile, Jinuan was running on fumes, her body aching with exhaustion. But she couldn't stop, not now. For Yuan, she whispered to herself, I have to endure. Just then, her manager rushed over, handing her another order slip. Jinuan's blood ran cold as she read the name. Young Master Huo, it had to be him. After everything, after deliberately trying to avoid him, fate was forcing her right back into his path. She begged her boss to send someone else, her legs feeling weak at the mere thought of facing him again, surrounded by 10 other women. But her boss was firm. Young Master Huo had specifically requested her. He was a VIP, she had no choice. Resigned, Jinuan took a deep breath. Earning money comes first, she reminded herself. This is just a job. As she approached the door, she tried to convince herself that he wasn't that scary. But before she could even knock, the door was wrenched open and a hand shot out, grabbing her arm. She was violently dragged inside, not by Huo Lchin, but by another man with a leering, disgusting smile. Let me go, she screamed, but he just laughed. He sneered about how arrogant she was and how he was going to teach her a lesson. He threw her to the floor with a sickening thud. He loomed over her, his eyes filled with malice as he began to unbutton his shirt. Now you'll behave, he snarled. Panic seized her. She screamed for help, but he just grabbed a handful of her hair, hissing that she had embarrassed him and now she was going to pay. He started dragging her deeper into the dark room. No, get away from me, she cried, struggling against his grip. His rage exploded. This young master favoring you is an honor, he roared, throwing her onto a sofa. Her mind raced. She couldn't let this happen. She wouldn't be ruined by this scum. Her eyes darted around and landed on a heavy glass ashtray. As he lunged, sneering that no woman ever escaped him, she grabbed it. With a desperate scream, she swung the ashtray with all her might, smashing it against the side of his head. He howled in pain, giving her a precious second to scramble away, but he was fast. His hand shot out, grabbing her ankle. You bitch, he screamed, blood pouring from his temple. I won't let you go. He pulled her down, but she wasn't done fighting. Fueled by adrenaline and fury, she kicked him hard, right between the legs. He let out a choked scream, doubling over in agony. She scrambled to her feet, her voice raw with rage. I said let go, are you deaf? Did your mother not teach you to respect women? You think your money makes you invincible? She brought her heel down hard on his chest, pinning him to the floor. Did you stop when I said no? You're worthless trash. Suddenly, she heard voices from the hallway. His friends were coming. The man on the floor pointed a shaky finger at her, screaming for them to catch that bitch. She didn't hesitate, she ran. She fled down the corridor, blind with panic, not knowing where to go. And then she slammed into a solid wall of a man. Her head snapped up and her heart stopped. Of all the terrible luck in the world, she had run straight into Huo Lchin. Before she could even scream, his arm snaked around her waist, pulling her flush against him. He spun her around, pressing her back against the wall, hiding her from view. And then his lips were on hers. The kiss was hard, demanding, silencing her completely. He pulled back just enough to whisper against her lips, his voice a low command. Don't move, or I'll hand you over to them. Pervert, she screamed in her mind, taking advantage of her when she was vulnerable. Just then, the thugs rounded the corner, stopping dead when they saw Huo Lchin's imposing figure. His voice was like thunder in the quiet hallway as he ordered them to get out. Terrified, they stammered apologies and fled immediately. The moment they were gone, she pushed against his chest. They're gone now, she said, her voice shaking. Let me go. He released her, a cruel smirk on his face. You little ingrate, he drawled, kicking down the ladder after crossing the river. It was the last straw. All the terror, the humiliation, the injustice of the night came crashing down on her. Tears of frustration welled in her eyes. You're all the same, she choked out, bullying people with your money and power. A single tear traced a path down her cheek. I hate you all. His smirk vanished instantly. His expression softened, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes as he asked, his voice suddenly quiet, are you crying? He reached a hand toward her, but she flinched away as if burned. Overwhelmed, she turned and fled, not looking back. Back in the hallway, the thugs were threatening the club manager, demanding he hand over Sujinuan within 3 days or they'd shut the place down. The manager, sweating bullets, ordered his entire staff to turn the club upside down to find her. Jinuan hid in the women's restroom, staring at her own reflection in the mirror. She couldn't believe it. A cold, heartless man like Huo Lchin seemed to be afraid of her tears, but why? Why did she feel so wronged in front of him, of all people? Her thoughts were interrupted by the gaggle of beautiful women who had been chosen for Huo Lchin. They were complaining that he hadn't touched any of them, that he might as well be a monk. Jinuan looked at their perfect faces and stunning dresses. He had rejected all of them. What did that mean? She shook her head, trying to get a grip. What was she even thinking? Huo Lchin was a dangerous man who saw her as a toy, a plaything. So why did a small, treacherous part of her feel pleased when he'd saved her? Stop it. She hissed to herself, gripping her lipstick so hard she thought it would break. He's just a scumbag. Just then, one of the women offered a new theory. With so many temptations and zero reaction, maybe it wasn't self-control. A wicked idea sparked in Jinuan's mind. She turned to them with a conspiratorial glint in her eye and suggested, but impotence. The women froze, their jaws dropping in unison. Realizing she'd gone too far, Jinuan coughed awkwardly and tried to make a swift exit. "I'll let you continue your chat." She practically fled the restroom, only to run straight into a hard, unmoving chest. Her head snapped up. It was him, Huo Lchin, standing right outside the door, his arms crossed, an unreadable expression on his face. "Oh no, please tell me he didn't hear that." She tried to dart around him, mumbling that she needed to get to work. But he blocked her path. His hand shot out, grabbing her chin and forcing her to meet his gaze. A slow, dangerous smile spread across his lips and his eyes glittered like shards of ice. His voice was a terrifying, silky purr. "I'm impotent?" he asked. "It seems," he continued, his thumb stroking her jaw, "I was too gentle with you that night, letting you grow bold enough to spread such lies." A nervous smile was plastered on her face, a desperate attempt to diffuse the tension in the "It's all a misunderstanding," she chirped, her voice a little too bright. How could the young Master Huo, so handsome and virile, possibly be impotent? It was a lie, a silly rumor, but as the words left her mouth, a cold dread washed over her. A voice, low and laced with ice, cut through the air from right behind her. "Oh, is that so?" Her blood ran cold. Asterisk, if I'd known karma would strike this fast, I wouldn't have run my mouth. Asterisk, her body went rigid. The men searching for her were closing in, their voices echoing down the hall. "Where is she? Check over there." Before she could even scream, a strong arm wrapped around her, pulling her back into a hard chest. The scent of sandalwood and power filled her senses. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock. "You." It was him, Huo Lchin. His grip was firm, unyielding as he held her against him. His voice was a low whisper against her ear, sending shivers down her spine. "I don't want to get hurt," he murmured, his gaze fixed down the corridor. "If you don't want to get caught, don't move." His hand gently cradled the back of her head, pressing her face into the fine fabric of his suit. Her mind went blank. All she could feel was the thunder of his heart against her cheek and the warmth of his body shielding her from view. The club's security guards were right there, their footsteps growing louder. Was that disgusting Zhu still looking for me? He held her tighter, his command a breath against her hair. "Don't speak, come with me." And just like that, he was leading her away, a silent predator claiming his prize. But their escape was cut short. The club manager rounded the corner and froze, his eyes bugging out of his head. "Young Master Huo and Su Tu?" His voice was a squeak of disbelief and terror. He scurried forward, bowing and scraping. "Young Master Huo, with your status you could have any woman. Sujinuan is just a waitress who's gotten into trouble." The manager's words were a venomous hiss, trying to paint her as worthless trash. He gestured towards her, practically offering her up on a silver platter. "Do I need your permission to take someone away?" Huo's voice was dangerously quiet, his arm still protectively around her. Sue's heart hammered against her ribs. No, the manager was insisting on having her family take her, leaving no way to explain. This was it. The Zhu matter had escalated, and this sniveling manager was about to hand her over just to keep the peace. Her eyes, wide and desperate, pleaded with the man holding her. "Young Master Huo, please show mercy." Just then, a chorus of voices erupted. "Manager!" Her colleagues rushed forward, forming a protective wall around her. "Zhu made advances first. I only fought back in self-defense." One of them cried out. Another chimed in, her voice filled with disgust. "Manager, young Master Zhu is a pervert who uses his family's money to disrespect us." The accusations flew one after another. "That's right, he always tortures people. He doesn't treat us as human. He's a repeat offender." Sue felt a surge of courage. She stepped forward, her voice ringing with conviction. "We're servers, but we earn our keep through hard work. We shouldn't have to endure abuse. Am I right, sisters?" A resounding "we all disagree" filled the hall. The manager stood there utterly dumbfounded. From the corner of her eye, she saw Huo Lchin watching her, his expression unreadable. But for a fleeting moment, she saw something flicker in his gaze. Asterisk, she looks like she's shining. Asterisk, his thoughts were a quiet storm. Asterisk, this woman is clearly no delicate flower. She never lets herself be wronged. Asterisk, while he watched, the manager's face turned purple with rage. "You're all rebelling against me," he shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at them. "The Zhu family has power in the city. If I don't hand her over, this club is finished. All of you will lose your jobs." The threat hung heavy in the air. The other girls fell silent, their livelihoods on the line. Sue's resolve wavered. Was she really going to drag everyone down with her? Just as despair began to set in, Huo Lchin finally spoke, his voice dripping with utter contempt. "You're trembling like a stray dog over some Zhu family," he sneered at the manager. "Pathetic," he paused, letting the word sink in before delivering the final, devastating blow. "I've just acquired shares in this club. I'm now the majority shareholder." The manager's jaw dropped. Huo's eyes were chips of ice as he finished his pronouncement. "If he wants someone, tell him to come ask me personally." A wave of gasps and excited whispers went through the waitresses. "Oh my, he just bought in? Young Master Huo is so cool. With him backing us, who dare touch the club? Sue is safe now." Sue could hardly breathe, her heart was doing acrobatics in her chest. Asterisk, what does this mean? Could it be for me? Asterisk. She immediately shook the thought away. Asterisk, no, Sujinuan, don't flatter yourself. He's just protecting his new investment, his own reputation. Don't overthink it. Asterisk, but she couldn't stop herself from looking at him, this infuriating, unpredictable man. Asterisk still, Huo Lchin, the bastard finally used their power for good. Asterisk deciding she wouldn't waste another moment in this place, she watched as he gave his final order. If Xu has any complaints, tell him to find me at the Huo estate. The waitresses cheered as the manager practically melted into a puddle on the floor. Huo turned and walked away without a backward glance. The manager, desperate to salvage the situation, turned to her. Sujinuan, where are you going? She didn't look back. I'll be right back, she called out, her voice steady. Just need to step out briefly. She didn't walk, she ran down to the echoing silence of the underground garage. She saw him just as he was about to get into his car. Huo Lchin, she yelled, her voice bouncing off the concrete walls. He paused, his hand on the car door. She cupped her hands around her mouth and shouted with everything she had, thank you. He turned, his silhouette framed by the harsh garage lights. Was that a ghost of a smile playing on his lips? He said nothing, simply got into the car. The engine purred to life. Drive. As the sleek black car disappeared into the night, Sue stood there, her breath catching in her throat. If it hadn't been for him, she didn't even want to imagine it. A genuine smile touched her lips as she whispered to the empty air. Thank you, Huo Lchin. Inside the car, the silence was broken by his assistant. That girl just now was quite pretty, but she was wearing a waitress uniform. He then handed a document to Huo. Young master, madam asked me to postpone your meeting tomorrow. Miss Lin, the heiress who studied abroad, is visiting the residence. Huo didn't even look up. Tell her the meeting is important and cannot be postponed. He flipped through the pages, his expression bored. Asterisk, this person really has too much free time. Always finding ways to arrange blind dates for me. Asterisk, his assistant sighed, caught between a rock and a hard place. Young master, making me cancel again? I always get scolded by madam for this. Huo's gaze drifted to the city lights flashing by. The word forever seemed to mock him. You're not young anymore, young master, the assistant pressed on. Why not fulfill her wish and find a suitable woman from our social circle? Huo's jaw tightened, his voice dropping to a dangerous low. I'm not some stud horse for continuing the family line. Even livestock breeding considers social status. The assistant immediately fell silent, sweat beading on his forehead. Asterisk, I shouldn't have spoken. Asterisk, just as the tension became unbearable, Huo spoke again, his tone completely changed. By the way, he said, his eyes gleaming with a new kind of interest. Investigate someone for me, Sujinuan. Meanwhile, in a luxurious hotel room, another man was waking up with a gasp. Huo Shaoxuan, Huo Lchin's cousin, stared in shock at the weeping woman beside him. You, last night, Her sobs were heartbreaking. How did this happen? I only remember drinking heavily at the nightclub. Last night was my first time. My family is very traditional. She clutched the sheets to her chest, her body trembling. If my father finds out, he'll kill me. Shaoxuan's heart, for the first time, fluttered with something other than lust. He was moved. He gently took her hand. I'm sorry about what happened last night. I take full responsibility. I'm Huo Shaoxuan, eldest son of the Huo family. Let me speak to your father. But she shook her head frantically. No, my father must never know. Her eyes, shimmering with tears, looked up at him. I'm quite traditional, but if you truly want to take responsibility, could we start by dating properly? He was completely smitten. Yes, he agreed without hesitation. She smiled, a picture of innocence. Thank you, my name is Kingwin. But behind that sweet smile, her thoughts were cold and sharp as glass. Asterisk, what a naive fool. Asterisk, the next morning, Sujinuan was jolted awake by a furious pounding on her door. Sujinuan, open this door right now, get your ass up, that shrill voice. It was Madame Su, why was she picking a fight so early? Jinuan threw open the door, grumbling, disturbing people's sleep this early should be punishable by lightning. Madame Su sneered back, HMPH, worry about yourself before lightning strikes me. She shoved a piece of paper into Jinuan's hands. What's this? Madame Su's laughter was pure poison. Haha, serves you right. She slammed the door, her parting words a triumphant shriek from the other side. Sujinuan, you ill-bred wild girl, you bitch, enjoy jail. This is a lawyer's letter from young Master Zhu, your trust fund, your shares, everything from that dead old man all belong to my Kingwin now. Jinuan looked down at the letter. Accusing me of intentional assault causing impotence? Her eyes widened in disbelief. He's impotent, was he that fragile? The shock quickly morphed into cold fury. He was trying to frame her. A dangerous glint entered her eyes. Bring it on. She immediately grabbed her phone. Damn it, calling me this early? A lazy voice answered. Don't be mad yet, Jinuan said calmly. I'm in legal trouble, need your help. In a sterile hospital room, young Master Zhu was surrounded by empty bottles fuming. So boring, stuck in this damn place with nothing fun. This is infuriating, that old man did this on purpose. Just then, a soft voice cut through his drunken haze. Excuse me, is this young Master Zhu's hospital room? It was her, Sujinuan, looking like an avenging angel. Later at a cafe, Jinuan sat across from a well-dressed man. Our law firm has connections with many influential people, he said smoothly. So Miss Su, you can contact me anytime if you need help. Asterisk, Nguyen, you finally found me a seemingly reliable man this time. Asterisk, she thought with a flicker of hope, but the man noticed her distraction. Miss Su, you don't seem very interested in me. He leaned forward, earnest. If you're dissatisfied with anything about me, please say so, I can change. No, I think you're great, she replied, her voice flat. she decided to cut to the chase. Mr. Lai, actually, I have no requirements. My only request is to register our marriage as soon as possible. He blinked, surprised. Why, someone like Miss Su clearly has many options. Why the urgency? Her gaze dropped to her hands. The words were a painful whisper. Because I have a half-brother with leukemia. The dowry was his only chance. Mr. Lai was visibly moved. I see, Miss Su's sisterly devotion moves me. Saving lives can't wait. I agree to register first, but I'll still give Miss Su a proper wedding later. A wave of relief washed over her. Thank you. It was so rare to meet someone who understood. This way she could get the money, but why did her heart feel so heavy? She pushed the feeling aside. Mr. Lai, the civil affairs office hasn't closed yet. Let's go register now. I absolutely can't back out at this critical moment. He was taken aback. So soon. You said it yourself, she reminded him, her voice firm. Saving lives can't wait, we can't delay. But as they stood to leave, a shrill voice screamed across the cafe, "You shameless couple, homewrecker!" A pregnant woman stormed towards them, her face contorted with rage. She pointed a trembling finger at Su. "How dare you seduce my husband?" Su was stunned into silence. What? The man, Mr. Lai, paled. "Lily, stop it. We broke up long ago." Broke up? The woman shrieked, clutching her stomach. "I never agreed. Our baby doesn't agree either." She grabbed his arm, her knuckles white. "Stop making scenes, Miss Su, let me explain." But Su's face had already turned to ice. She stared at the crying, pregnant woman clinging to the man who had just agreed to marry her. Asterisk, getting her pregnant then claiming no relationship? Doesn't seem like much to explain. Asterisk, the woman's wails grew louder, attracting a crowd. "Ah, why are you stealing my husband? My baby and I can't live without him." She turned her tear-streaked face to Su. "Someone as pretty as you could seduce rich men? I beg you, don't take my husband." Su's voice was calm and cold. "Miss, I just met this person for a blind date today. I knew nothing about you. If he's your husband, keep him under control. Stop letting him pose as single to deceive people." Whispers erupted around them. "Tusk, tusk, what trash." Su gave Mr. Lai a final, withering look. "Since your ex is pregnant, you should take responsibility." She turned on her heel and walked away. Miss Su, he cried out, trying to follow. But the woman clung to him, threatening, "It is yours. If you chase her, I'll kill myself and the baby. Let me go." He was trapped, forced to watch as his last hope walked out the door. As soon as Su was gone, the woman's tears vanished. "Phew," she sighed, slumping into a chair. "That crying exhausted me." She calmly picked up a cupcake and took a bite, a blissful smile on her face. Mr. Lai stormed back to the table, his face thunderous. "You Lingli, explain yourself, what was that about?" She looked at him, completely unbothered. "What's unclear? I came to ruin your date. This dessert is delicious." He slammed his hand down, knocking the pastry from her grasp. "Don't play dumb. How dare you ruin my marriage plans with Miss Su?" Her expression hardened. "What? I won't let a hypocrite like you harm innocent girls. You're selfish, misogynistic, and abusive. Want to hit me now? Go ahead, kill us both and face the consequences." He recoiled, clenching his fists in impotent rage. "You, damn you." Later, he was on the phone, his voice shaking. Standing behind him, shrouded in shadow, was Huo Lchin. "Young master, I swear," Mr. Lai stammered to Huo's assistant. "I only told this person to disrupt things as you ordered. I never taught her to insult Miss Su too." Huo Lchin stepped forward, his eyes cold and sharp. His voice was low, cutting through the assistant's excuses. Where did she go? Su walked down the street, the world feeling gray and hopeless. Asterisk, why do I only meet scumbags on dates? Not a single decent man. Asterisk, the weight of her brother's illness pressed down on her, suffocating her. Without marriage, phew, how can I get the dowry money now? Despair was a bitter taste in her mouth. She stopped, her mind racing, searching for any way out of this nightmare. The man across the table had a kind smile, a warm presence that felt safe. Asterisk, finally, asterisk, knew and you thought, a sliver of hope piercing through her despair. Asterisk, I finally found a seemingly reliable man, asterisk, but her relief was short-lived. The man, Mr. Lai, leaned forward, his brow furrowed with concern as he noted her distant expression. He asked if she wasn't interested in him, if she was dissatisfied with anything. His voice was earnest, promising he could change. Nguyen Yu's heart stuttered. No. That wasn't it at all. She quickly reassured him, saying she thought he was great. In fact, she had only one request. Her voice was barely a whisper as she admitted her only condition was to register their marriage as soon as possible. Mr. Lai's confusion was plain on his face. Why the urgency? A woman like her surely had endless options. Why rush into anything? A shadow passed over Nguyen Yu's eyes, the carefully constructed wall around her heart beginning to crumble because her half-brother had leukemia. The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. She explained that she would receive a dowry that could pay for his surgery, but only once she was married. A look of understanding, of genuine sympathy, softened Mr. Lai's features. He was moved by her sisterly devotion. Saving a life couldn't wait, he agreed, promising to register their marriage first and give her a proper wedding later. Gratitude washed over her, so potent it almost brought tears to her eyes. How rare it was to meet someone who understood her desperate situation. This way she could finally get the money for Yuan's surgery. But even as relief flooded her, a strange heaviness settled in her heart. Why did this feel so wrong? She couldn't afford to second-guess this. Pushing her doubts aside, she looked at him with renewed determination, pointing out that the civil affairs office hadn't closed yet. "Let's go register now," she urged, her mind screaming that she absolutely could not back out at this critical moment. Mr. Lai's eyes widened in shock. So soon, but she was relentless, reminding him of his own words, saving lives can't wait. Just as he was about to answer, a shrill voice ripped through the quiet cafe. You shameless couple, a pregnant woman stormed towards their table, her face contorted with rage. Her finger trembled as she pointed it at Nguyen Yu. Homewrecker, how dare you seduce my husband? Nguyen Yu froze, the accusation hitting her like a physical blow. What? Mr. Lai shot, trying to calm the woman down, insisting they had broken up long ago. But the woman, Lily, wasn't listening. She grabbed his suit jacket, her voice cracking as she screamed that she never agreed to break up. Her hand went to her swollen belly, her eyes filling with tears. Our baby doesn't agree either. Mr. Lai grew frantic, begging her to stop making a scene as he turned to Nguyen Yu, desperate to explain. But Nguyen Yu's gaze was cold, her mind racing. Asterisk, we ended things long ago, asterisk. Then how did he get her pregnant? It doesn't seem like there's much to explain. Lily's act escalated into loud, gut-wrenching wails. Are you stealing my husband? My baby and I can't live without him. The other patrons began to stare, their whispers like daggers. The woman fell to her knees, begging Nguyen Yu not to take her husband away. Nguyen Yu's hands clenched at her sides, her patience wearing thin. Her voice was steady, dangerously calm, as she explained she had just met this person for a blind date today and knew nothing about her. She looked down at the weeping woman, her tone turning to ice. If he's your husband, keep him under control. Stop letting him pose as single to deceive people. The whispers in the crowd shifted, now aimed at the married scumbag. Nguyen Yu then turned her piercing gaze on Mr. Lai. Since your ex is pregnant, she said, each word a shard of glass, you should take responsibility. And with that, she turned on her heel and walked away. Mr. Lai cried out her name, trying to follow, but Lily clung to him, screaming that they broke up over a year ago and the baby wasn't his. She threatened to kill herself and the child if he dared to chase after Nguyen Yu. He was trapped. As soon as Nguyen Yu was out of sight, Lily's tears vanished. She let out an exhausted sigh, sat down and casually picked up a cupcake. Phew, that crying exhausted me. Mr. Lai's face turned purple with rage. You Lingli, he hissed. Explain yourself. He slammed his hand on the table, demanding to know what that was all about. She just smirked, taking a bite of dessert. What's unclear? I came to ruin your date. His fury exploded. He swiped the cupcake from her hand, smashing it against the table. How dare you ruin my marriage plans with Miss Su? Lingli shot up, her eyes blazing. What? I won't let a hypocrite like you harm innocent girls. You're selfish, misogynistic, and abusive. She shoved her pregnant belly forward. Want to hit me now? Go ahead, kill us both and face the consequences. He could only seethe, grinding his teeth in impotent rage. From a distance, a man lowered a pair of binoculars, a grim expression on his face. He turned to the dark figure beside him. Young master, I swear, I only told this person to disrupt things. I never taught her to insult Miss Su too. Huo Lchin's gaze was glacial, his voice dangerously low as he asked, where did she go? Nguyen Yu walked down the steps, a heavy sigh escaping her lips. Why did she only ever meet scumbags on dates? Not a single decent man. A wave of despair washed over her. Without marriage. Her breath hitched. How can I get the dowry money now? Her last hope was gone. As she walked, her thoughts were interrupted by a commotion ahead. A crowd had gathered, whispering amongst themselves. Don't get too close, one man warned. She might be faking a fall to extort money. Another woman scoffed. You're too naive. This old lady is wearing designer clothes. If she doesn't dress well, how can she trick anyone? Nguyen Yu's eyes widened when she saw an elderly woman collapsed on the ground, gasping for air. Oh no. Without a second thought, she pushed her way through the onlookers. Everyone move aside. A man grabbed her arm. Miss, please don't touch her. If something happens, you'll be held responsible. But Nguyen Yu ignored him, her fingers immediately going to the woman's neck to check her pulse. She's not faking, she shouted, her voice ringing with authority. She's in shock. Someone call an ambulance. She knelt beside the woman, urging the crowd to step back and give her air. From the edge of the chaos, two men in black suits watched the scene unfold. It was Huo Lchin. His intense gaze was locked on Nguyen Yu as he calmly instructed his assistant, call an ambulance. Assistant Shen stared, mesmerized. Miss Su, he couldn't believe it. Not only is she beautiful, but she also saves lives. And most impressive of all, she's got our young master completely smitten. He'd abandoned a $1 billion deal just to meddle in her blind date. Truly remarkable. Nguyen Yu felt a faint rhythm under her fingertips. She has a pulse again. Just then, paramedics rushed in. The patient is here, quick. A doctor quickly assessed the woman, confirming she was stable. Thanks to the kind stranger who performed emergency CPR, he announced to the crowd. Otherwise, it would have been too late. The crowd murmured their praise, calling Nguyen Yu a hero, but as the adrenaline faded, a wave of dizziness washed over her. The world tilted and she stumbled. A strong arm wrapped around her waist, steadying her. She looked up into a pair of piercing, familiar eyes. It's you, she breathed. Huo Lchin held her firmly. You look pale, he said, his voice a low rumble. Don't speak, close your eyes and rest. I'll take you to the hospital. He pulled her against his chest, her head resting against his shoulder. Huo Lchin, why was he here? He looked down at her, a faint smirk on his lips. Don't want to rest, not tired enough? His voice dropped to a husky whisper that sent shivers down her spine. Or do you want me to do something to you? Her cheeks flushed and she immediately buried her face in his chest, shaking her head frantically. No, I'll rest. Her mind was a chaotic mess. The last time she saw him, he ignored her completely. Now he was acting so concerned. What was he thinking? Her vision blurred and the world went dark. He watched her go limp in his arms before effortlessly scooping her up. Asterisk, what am I even thinking? What am I even doing? Asterisk, he wondered, looking down at her peaceful face. He sighed, asterisk, whatever, none of it matters, asterisk. He held her close, a strange warmth spreading through his chest as he gazed at her sleeping form. She was so trusting, so vulnerable. Not afraid I'll sell you off, he murmured softly, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips. She woke up to the quiet hum of a hospital room, the full moon shining brightly outside her window. Asterisk, in the end, Huo Lchin still brought me to the hospital. Asterisk, she stretched with a deep yawn, feeling more rested than she had in ages. Then her eyes landed on the bill left on her bedside table. Her eyes bulged. 10,000 yuan. Wait, all I did was sleep here. This is complete robbery. She scrambled out of bed and rushed to the reception desk, only to be told by the nurse that her bill had already been settled. Settled, she stood there stunned. It had to be him. Huo Lchin must have paid. A heavy feeling settled in her stomach, the one person she didn't want to owe, and now she was even deeper in his debt. Just then her phone rang. Her heart stopped. It was Dr. Zhao Yuan's doctor. Why was he calling so late? 1,000 terrible possibilities flooded her mind. Had something happened to Yuan? Her hand trembled as she answered. Hello, Dr. Zhao, my brother. The doctor's words cut through her like a knife. The hospital had just been informed that the bone marrow donor had withdrawn. He couldn't donate anymore. The world shattered into a million pieces. The phone nearly slipped from her grasp. What? How could this happen? She cried, her voice breaking. Is it not enough money? I can pay. Any amount is fine. I can give more. But the doctor explained that the donor gave no reason. It was a voluntary process. They couldn't force him after all this time, after waiting so long for this one perfect match. It was gone. Tears streamed down her face as she choked back a sob. Yuan's condition was getting worse. He couldn't wait much longer. Dr. Zhao, please, she begged, her voice raw with desperation. Give me the donor's contact. I'll beg him myself. Any condition, I'll agree to it. The doctor gently refused, citing medical ethics, and she hung up, her body trembling with grief. Alone in the empty hallway, she finally broke down. God, why give us hope only to so cruelly shatter it? She looked out at the cold, indifferent moon. Yuan, what should your sister do? When she arrived home, she found her stepsister Su Kingwin saying goodbye to a man by a flashy red car. Kingwin saw her, scoffed, and turned away. Asterisk, so she has a new man? Asterisk, noon, you thought numbly. Asterisk, no wonder she hasn't been harassing me. Asterisk, but Kingwin stopped, a cruel smirk twisting her lips. Sister, you look awful. Something terrible must have happened. Noon tried to ignore her and walk past, but Kingwin's next words froze her in place. But then again, is that bastard brother of yours saying hello to the king of hell soon? Nuinyu's blood ran cold. What? Kingwin laughed, a sound like shattering glass. How does it feel? The brother you protected so carefully finally gets a matching donor, only for it to slip away at the last moment. And guess what? She leaned in close, her eyes glinting with malice. I'm the one who made it happen. Surprised Tilda, a primal rage erupted from the depths of Nuinyu's soul. She lunged, her hands closing around Kingwin's throat. So it was you. She screamed, her voice a raw, animalistic sound. What did you do? Kingwin clawed at her hands, gasping for air. You crazy? I'll never tell you. Just a few words from me, and your brother dies. Nuinyu's grip tightened, her knuckles white. Why target Yuan? Why crush his only hope? What did you say to him? She roared, shaking her stepsister violently. Speak now. Kingwin began to scream for their parents. Managing to break free and scramble away. You're nothing, she shrieked from a safe distance. With mom and dad here, what can you do? Nuinyu's eyes burned with a terrible cold fire. Fine, Su Kingwin, she vowed, her voice dangerously low. You'd better never leave this house again. I won't let you get away with this. 3 days later at Bay Harbor, Su Kingwin fumed. For 3 days straight, Nuinyu had followed her everywhere, a silent, vengeful shadow. Sujinuan, stop following me, she snapped. Nuinyu blocked her path, her expression unyielding. Tell me who he is, Kingwin sneered. Crazy bitch, I'm going to a yacht party now. Let's see you follow me there. She flounced towards the pier, but when Nuinyu tried to follow, security blocked her way. No invitation, no entry. Nuinyu watched her stepsister disappear onto the yacht, her fists clenched in frustration. You win this round, I'll just wait outside then. Hey, Miss Su, what a coincidence. Nuinyu turned to see Assistant Shen smiling at her. He gestured towards the party. Here for the yacht party? She looked down, embarrassed. I want to go in, but His smile widened. This yacht belongs to our young master. They're hosting a birthday party tonight. If you don't mind, you could come aboard with me. Hope flared in her chest. Really? He then glanced at her simple hoodie and skirt. Though your current outfit might need some adjustments. Seeing her blush, he quickly added, Don't worry, we have stylists on board. Please come with me. The doors to the dressing room swung open with a soft whoosh, revealing a world of impossible luxury. Sujinuan stepped inside, her eyes wide with disbelief. This wasn't just a room, it was a sanctuary of opulence, a floating boutique filled with gleaming surfaces, designer bags, and a pristine white gown waiting on a mannequin. While she thought, her inner voice a breathless whisper, even the yacht has such a luxurious dressing room. 2 smiling stylists greeted her, their warmth immediate as they guided her to a seat. One gently began to work on her hair as the other assured her they would handle everything. Jinuan could only manage a soft, huh, okay. Her mind was reeling. This was way too extravagant, it felt like it was all prepared just for her. But why how outside Huo Lchin's assistant watched with a smug, satisfied smile. Misu hasn't noticed a thing, he thought gleefully. My efficiency is impeccable, the young master better give me a fat year-end bonus for this. He walked out onto the sun-drenched deck, approaching a figure staring out at the endless blue sea. Young master, he announced, everything is arranged. Huo Lchin didn't turn. The sea breeze ruffled his dark hair, the white of his suit stark against the azure horizon. He simply acknowledged the report with a quiet hum. Back in the dressing room, the final touches were complete. The lead stylist beamed, announcing that Miss Sue's makeup was done. Jinuan slowly lifted her gaze to the mirror and her breath caught in her throat. The woman staring back at her was a stranger. Her eyes, expertly lined, seemed larger and deeper, sparkling with a light she'd never seen before. Her hair cascaded in soft, perfect waves, adorned with a delicate, flowery headpiece. Is that really me? She whispered, her hand drifting to her cheek. I've never looked this beautiful before, the stylist laughed warmly, her voice filled with professional pride. She told Jinuan that she'd done makeup for socialites, models, and celebrities, but Jinuan outshone them all. A blush crept up Jinuan's neck, and she stammered that it was just the stylist's amazing skill. But the compliments weren't over. The stylist gestured to a rack of breathtaking gowns. She explained they had prepared several designer haute couture pieces from the latest season for her to choose from. Jinuan's eyes lit up like a child in a candy store. Wow, she breathed, her gaze sweeping over the shimmering fabrics and intricate designs, such beautiful dresses. The stylist encouraged her to take her time, but little did she know, young Master Huo had arranged all of this just for her. Her eyes landed on a stunning pale pink gown, adorned with delicate white flowers along the neckline. It was perfect. I'll take this one, she said, her voice filled with a newfound confidence. The stylist praised her excellent choice, noting how perfectly the gown would suit her and led her to the fitting room. Once inside, Jinuan slipped into the dress. The fabric felt like a dream against her skin, but as she reached behind her back, her fingers fumbled, unable to grasp the tiny, elusive zipper. With a frustrated sigh, she gave up. She opened the door just a crack, calling out into the main room. Miss Stylist, could you help me zip up? I can't reach it, she asked. A shadow fell over the doorway and a hand reached in, but it wasn't the stylist's. This hand was larger, masculine. It took hold of the zipper and slid it up her back with a smooth, deliberate motion. Done. The voice was low, familiar, and sent a jolt of electricity down her spine. Huo Lchin, her heart hammered against her ribs as she spun around. And there he was, standing so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Why is he here? The shock sent her stumbling backward. Her heel caught, and for a terrifying second she was falling. But before she could hit the floor, a strong arm snaked around her waist, pulling her flush against a hard chest. He had her. His gaze was intense, unreadable, as he looked down at her wide, panicked eyes. What was he doing? She stammered, her hands pushing uselessly against his suit jacket. Her voice was barely a whisper as she pleaded for him to let her go. He said nothing. His silence was more terrifying than any threat. He simply stared, his eyes tracing the lines of her face, her lips. And then he leaned in. A gasp escaped her as his lips captured hers. It wasn't gentle, it was a kiss of possession, of demand, stealing the air from her lungs. She struggled, her hands beating against his chest, but it was like hitting a wall of stone. He effortlessly caught her wrists, pinning them with one hand. The fight drained out of her, replaced by a dizzying, breathless haze. I can't breathe, she thought, her mind going completely blank. The world was nothing but the press of his lips and the frantic thumping of her own heart. Just when she thought she would pass out, he pulled away. She gasped for air, her face flushed, her lips tingling and swollen. How did he even get in? But before she could form another coherent thought, he bent down and swept her up into his arms. A startled shriek escaped her. Let me down, she cried, wiggling in his grasp. He ignored her protests, a low command rumbling in his chest. Come here. He carried her over to a small settee and gently set her on her feet. Her head was still spinning. What else do you want? She demanded, her voice trembling slightly. He didn't answer. Instead, he knelt before her. Knelt. And in his hands, he held the most exquisite pair of pale pink heels she had ever seen, sparkling with delicate crystals. Her eyes widened. Are these for me to wear? She asked, her voice barely audible. He took her foot in his hand, his touch sending another jolt through her system. He was going to put her shoes on for her. This powerful, intimidating man was kneeling at her feet. Her entire body burned with embarrassment. She tried to pull her foot away, insisting she could dress herself. But his grip was gentle yet firm, his gaze was fixed on her foot, his expression unreadable. So small, he murmured almost to himself. The memory of that night of Cinderella finding her prince flashed through her mind. But that night it fit me perfectly, her cheeks flamed redder. Hey, are you done yet? How long are you going to hold my foot? She squeaked, mortified. A ghost of a smile touched his lips as he finally slid the shoe on. Done, he said, his voice smooth as silk. Fits perfectly. He stood and she rose with him, testing the heels. They were impossibly soft, surprisingly comfortable. Before she could react, he took her hand in his fingers lacing through hers. He cleared his throat, his tone suddenly casual. It's my elder brother's birthday today. I happen to be missing a dance partner tonight. Jinuan stared at him dumbfounded. No way is he joking, a man like him short of dance partners? He leaned in closer, his warm breath tickling her ear, his voice dropping to an intimate whisper that made her shiver. I'm missing you. Her heart did a frantic, chaotic flip in her chest. The warmth of his hand, the intensity in his eyes. It was all too much. Snap out of it, Sujinuan, she screamed at herself internally. Don't fall for this person. She wrenched her hand away, taking a step back. No, Huo Lchin, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Don't tempt me. She forced herself to meet his gaze, desperation clawing at her throat. That night was just an accident. I know you're just chasing novelty. I have things to do. I won't play with you. And with that, she turned and fled, her beautiful gown billowing behind her. His assistant, who had been waiting outside, watched the whole scene unfold, his jaw on the floor. He was utterly stunned. Even the young master's unprecedented gentleness couldn't melt her resistance. He thought Miss Su was just playing hard to get. Truly impressive. For the first time in his life, he actually got to see the young master get rejected. Jinuan burst out onto the main deck of the yacht, the cool night air a welcome shock to her heated skin. The party was in full swing under a blanket of stars. But she wasn't here for the festivities. Where would Kingwin be? As she scanned the crowd, she felt eyes on her. Whispers erupted as she passed. Wow, who is that? Which family's young miss? So beautiful. And then a familiar voice, sharp and laced with poison, cut through the murmurs. Sujinuan? Jinuan froze. There was Kingwin, her face a mask of pure fury. Damn it, how did she board without an invitation? To steal the spotlight? Sujinuan, why are you here? Kingwin spat, marching towards her. She grabbed Jinuan's arm, her nails digging into her skin. Jinuan didn't flinch. She met her sister's hateful glare with an icy calm of her own. If you can be here, she said coolly, why can't I? Feeling guilty and scared. Kingwin's face contorted with rage. She dragged Jinuan to a more secluded corner of the deck. You know what I want, she hissed. Last chance, my brother is still waiting. If you can undo what you did to the donor, I'll let you off. Jinuan stared at her in utter disbelief. What does your brother have to do with me? The sheer audacity was staggering. Whether someone donates or not is up to them. Are you insane? Kingwin's eyes blazed. Only because you meddled behind the scenes, Sujinuan, let go? Talk, Kingwin demanded, her grip tightening painfully. Just as Kingwin's fury was about to boil over, Jinuan's entire demeanor shifted in a heartbeat. Her defiant expression crumbled, replaced by one of pure terror. Tears welled in her eyes, her voice trembling as she pleaded, sis, don't hit me, whatever you want to know. I'll tell you everything. Kingwin froze, completely thrown. What act is she putting on now? Before she could figure it out, a man's angry voice boomed from behind them. What are you playing at? What are you doing to Kingwin? Let her go. Huo Lchin stormed over, roughly yanking Jinuan's arm away from his precious Kingwin. Jinuan stumbled back, her eyes widening as she recognized him. Isn't that the man Kingwin took upstairs that night? Kingwin immediately seized the opportunity, collapsing into Lcin's arms with a dramatic sob. Lcin, ah? She cried, burying her face in his chest. So this was him, Jinuan realized, the adopted eldest son of the Huo family. Rumor said Madame Huo treated him even better than her own biological son. He held Kingwin protectively, murmuring that it was all right now. Then his cold, accusatory gaze fell on Jinuan. Who are you? He demanded. Who allowed you on board? A voice smooth as ice and twice as cold answered for her. She's my invited dance partner. Huo Lchin emerged from the shadows, stepping to stand right beside Jinuan. The shift in the atmosphere was immediate. Lchin stared, utterly speechless. Kingwin's eyes widened in shock. Huo Lchin, the legitimate heir of the Huo family, her real target all along. Huo Lchin ignored them both. His hand came to rest possessively on Jinuan's waist, pulling her slightly closer. His voice was dangerously quiet as he addressed his brother. My guest, my responsibility, any problem? Lchin was stunned into silence. This person is his partner? This was the first time he'd ever seen Huo Lchin bring a female companion. Didn't he always avoid women? Jinuan was just as bewildered. Since when am I his dance partner? She wondered, feeling the heat of his hand through her dress. How can this person say it so matter-of-factly? Huo Lchin's gaze remained locked on his brother, a faint smirk playing on his lips. Indeed, he said smoothly. I haven't had the chance to introduce this person to eldest brother. Kingwin, ever the performer, quickly recovered. She clung to Lcin's arm, offering a sweet smile. Brother Kingwin, let me introduce her. She's my sister, Sujinuan, she chirped. We just had a little misunderstanding earlier, nothing serious. Lchin, trying to save face, quickly agreed. So we're all acquainted. I acted too hastily earlier, my apologies. Kingwin's smile turned sharp, her eyes glinting with malice. The dance is about to begin. Kingwin, shall we go in? She asked Lchin before turning her venomous gaze to Jinuan. Perfect timing, Sister Tilda, shall we dance? The unspoken challenge hung heavy in the air. Never learned dancing, never attended balls. What will you do now? Jinuan's heart plummeted, panic seized her. This humiliation is inevitable. Kingwin, Madame Su's biological daughter, was trained in all the social graces, but she'd never spent a penny to educate me. She looked up at Huo Lchin, her eyes wide with fear. You're my dance partner. If you don't dance, who should I dance with? He asked, his voice low and steady. I never learned, she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. Aren't you afraid I'll embarrass you? His gaze didn't waver, a confident, almost arrogant calm radiated from him. In all my life, he stated simply, I've never been embarrassed. His words were a shocking balm to her terror. What's one occasional embarrassment? Just follow my lead, let's see who dares laugh. Kingwin's face twisted in an ugly snarl. Sujinuan, how dare you? He took her hand, his grip firm and reassuring. Let's go, he commanded, leading her toward the grand ballroom. If I say you can, you can. The Sujinuan I know isn't a coward. He pulled her into the formal dance position, his body close, his presence overwhelming. Right now, I really want to be a coward, she thought frantically. I came to investigate, not to show off. A low chuckle rumbled in his chest as if he'd read her mind. All right, little turtle, he teased, his eyes sparkling with amusement. Raise your hand, place it on my shoulder. Who are you calling a turtle? She spluttered, her face flushing a deep crimson. This was on purpose. This dance required such closeness. He just smirked, clearly enjoying her flustered state. Adorable, makes me want to pinch this person, he thought. His voice softened, becoming a soothing murmur meant only for her. Sujinuan, relax, follow my rhythm. The music swelled and he began to move, sweeping her across the floor. Her feet felt like lead tangling beneath her. Why, you're too fast, she stammered, her eyes wide with panic. But his lead was flawless. He guided her, anticipated her missteps, and turned her clumsy stumbles into something that almost resembled grace. And then a strange thing happened. She started to feel the music, to follow his unspoken commands. Actually, it's not that hard. He leaned in, his lips brushing her ear as he whispered, simple, right? A small surprised smile touched her lips as she found herself against all odds dancing. The music swelled, a symphony of elegance and whispered gossip that filled the grand ballroom. Murmurs rippled through the crowd like a contagion. Wow, whose young lady is that dancing? Another voice chimed in, isn't that young Master Huo beside her? They dance so well, they look so perfectly matched. But from the sidelines, Kingwin sneered, her eyes filled with venom as she watched them glide across the floor. Since when did Sujinuan learn to dance? That conniving little witch, always playing the helpless victim to fool men, and why was she with Huo Auction? Everyone knew he couldn't hold a candle to the true prize of the Huo family, Huo Lchin. On the dance floor, Sujinuan felt like she was in a dream, sparkling under the chandeliers. Her partner, the enigmatic Huo Lchin, moved with a grace that stole her breath. His hand was firm on her waist, his eyes locked on hers, but the spell was shattered when a butler approached, his head bowed respectfully. His voice was quiet but firm, a stark interruption to their perfect moment. The patriarch requested the young master's presence. A flicker of annoyance crossed Lchin's handsome face before he smoothed it over, giving a curt nod. Understood. He turned back to Jinuan, his eyes softening just for her, his lips brushed against her ear. His voice a low, intimate whisper that sent shivers down her spine. Go mingle for now, he murmured. Wait for me. He pressed a soft, fleeting kiss to her cheek, and her face instantly flushed a deep crimson. As he walked away, she let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Phew, that man was like a walking spotlight. Every eye in the room followed his every move, and by extension hers. Now finally alone, a more pressing need made itself known. Her stomach rumbled. She hadn't eaten anything all night. Her eyes scanned the room and landed on a glorious sight, a table laden with exquisite cakes and desserts. Her eyes sparkled with pure, unadulterated joy. Those cakes looked absolutely delicious. She scurried over, her previous elegance forgotten in the face of confectionery perfection. Grabbing a plate, she took a delicate bite of a small cake, her eyes closing in bliss. So good. Just as she was about to take another bite, a sharp, condescending voice cut through her moment of peace. Hey, who are you? Jinuan looked up to see a woman with eyes like chips of ice staring her down. I've never seen you before. The woman was dressed in a shimmering navy gown, her posture radiating arrogance. It was Lindsia, heiress of the wealthy Lin family. She stood with her arms crossed, surveying Jinuan as if she were something unpleasant she'd found on the bottom of her shoe. Jinuan, fork still in her mouth, simply blinked at her. None of your business who I am, she replied coolly. Lindsia's face contorted with rage. It is my business when you're clinging to my fiancé. She shrieked. Fiancé? Jinuan's heart skipped a beat. Whose fiancé? Huo Lchin. Zia spat the name like a curse. Jinuan was stunned. A cold knot formed in her stomach. Wait a minute, that couldn't be right. Who's your fiancé? She challenged, her voice trembling slightly. You should tell him he's single because that's what he told me. Zia's face turned a dangerous shade of purple. You. She sputtered, her hand raising as if to strike. But before she could, a smooth voice intervened. Wait, Miss Lindsia. It was Assistant Shen, his smile placid as he stepped between the two women. He gently blocked Zia's path. Didn't you want to know about our young master's hobbies? Let's discuss over there. His smile was disarming, professional, a calm sea over a raging storm. Zia's anger faltered, replaced by a flicker of interest. Really? She asked, her tone softening. I want to know everything about him. As Shen led the placated heiress away, he shot a warning glance over his shoulder at Jinuan. Asterisk, stop provoking the person our young master treasures unless you want to die. Asterisk, but Jinuan didn't see it. She was too lost in her own storm of fury, chewing her cake with a vengeance. He has a fiancé, and he still messes with me, that damn liar Huo Lchin. Just as she was seething, Zia paused beside her on her way past. Oh right, she began, a malicious glint in her eye. Oops. her hand holding a glass of deep red wine tilted just so. The crimson liquid cascaded down, a violent splash against the delicate pink fabric of Jinuan's dress. A huge, ugly stain bloomed right on her abdomen. The man beside Zia gasped. "Miss Lin, how could you?" But Zia just gave a sickeningly sweet smile. "Sorry," she cooed, "my hand slipped." Jinuan looked down at the ruined dress, then back up at Zia, her expression unreadable. A slow smile spread across her lips. "Fine," she said, her voice dangerously calm. Her hand clenched into a fist at her side. This dress hem was annoying anyway. In one swift, shocking motion, she grabbed the stained hem of her long gown and ripped it clean off. The sound of tearing fabric silenced the nearby chatter. Gasps erupted as her elegant gown was transformed into a daring, chic cocktail dress. Zia and Assistant Shen stared, their jaws agape. Jinuan simply dusted her hands off and gave them a dismissive look. "Do whatever you want," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Just don't block me from eating." She turned on her heel and walked away, plate of dessert still firmly in hand, leaving them utterly speechless. But the drama wasn't over. As Zia stood there fuming, Assistant Shen stumbled, his own glass tipping precariously. "Ah!" Zia shrieked as a fresh splash of wine decorated her expensive navy gown. The stain was dark and unforgiving. "Shen Yingji, what are you doing?" she screamed. Shen put on a perfect performance of panicked apology, his hands flapping in the air. "My apologies, Miss Lin," he said, his voice laced with false sincerity. "My hand slipped." The words, her own excuse thrown back in her face, were the final straw. "Shen Yingji, know your place?" Zia shrieked, her hand flying through the air. The sharp crack of a slap echoed through the hall. A bright red handprint bloomed on Assistant Shen's cheek. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath at the sheer audacity. Zia, breathing heavily, shot one last murderous glare before storming away in a huff. Jinuan rushed over to Shen's side. "Assistant Shen, are you okay?" she asked, her eyes wide with concern. He touched his stinging cheek, a wry smile playing on his lips. "I'm fine," he assured her. "If I didn't take that slap, this wouldn't have ended. She's the only daughter of the Lin Group's chairman after all." He looked almost pleased with himself. A strange thought crossed his mind. Asterisk, this counts as a work injury, taking a hit for Miss Su. "How much will young master give me?" Asterisk, Jinuan was bewildered. Why did he look so happy after being slapped? Her thoughts were interrupted as a group of young men swarmed around her, their eyes filled with admiration. "Miss, you're stunning. Care for a dance?" She was immediately surrounded, a deer in headlights. "Miss, let's get acquainted," another one urged. Flustered, she tried to wave them off. "Sorry I can't dance," but they were persistent. "No worries, I can teach you, I've won awards," one boasted. "My father chairs Lu Corporation," another declared. "My mother owns a global chain," a third chimed in, already reaching for her hand. Jinuan stammered, trying to back away, but she was trapped. Suddenly, a dark shadow fell over them. A powerful hand shot out, grabbing the wrist of the man who was about to touch her. Huo Lchin was back. His eyes were like thunderclouds, promising a storm. He yanked Jinuan from the crowd, pulling her flesh against his body. His arm wrapped around her waist like a steel band, a clear sign of ownership. The swarm of suitors immediately backed away, hands raised in surrender. "Oh, so the lady already has a partner?" one mumbled. "I won't disturb you then." They scurried off, leaving Jinuan alone with the furious man holding her captive. "Are you insane? Let go," she hissed, struggling in his grip. But he only held her tighter, his fingers digging into her arm. His voice was a low, dangerous growl next to her ear. "I leave for 5 minutes and you attract a swarm of butterflies." His eyes, burning with a possessive fire, bored into hers. "Think I'm dead?" Jinuan's fear was instantly replaced by white-hot rage. "How is it my fault?" she exploded, shoving against his chest. "You have a fiancé, yet you still mess with me. Let go, I refuse to be part of your play." "Fiancé?" His brow furrowed in confusion. "Since when? Who said that?" he demanded. She scoffed, her voice dripping with disgust. "Still playing dumb? I actually slept with someone like this." The memory was now tainted, a source of shame. "And even," her voice cracked, "I'll dare anything except being a mistress," she declared, her eyes flashing with defiance. "Huo Lchin, you scum, get lost." He reached for her, his expression desperate. "Wait, let me explain. Let go, release me," she screamed, twisting out of his grasp. In her frantic struggle, her hand flew up and the world seemed to slow down. A sharp, echoing crack filled the air. Her palm connected with his cheek. Silence. Absolute, deafening silence. Jinuan froze, her hand still tingling, her eyes wide with horror. His head was turned to the side, a red mark already forming on his perfect skin. "Oh God, what have I done? I'm so dead." The surrounding guests stared, their eyes wide with shock. This young master slapped in public by a woman. Huo Lchin slowly turned his head back, his eyes dark and unreadable. His jaw was clenched, his fist tightening at his side. Just then Kingwin glided up to his side, her voice a venomous whisper meant only for him. "Young Master Huo, I know why my sister hates mistresses so much." He didn't even look at her. His gaze was still locked on Jinuan, but his voice was dangerously low. "What did you say?" Kingwin began, her crocodile tears, her voice trembling with false emotion. "Our mother cheated and became a man's mistress. When Dad found out, he beat her, banished her from the Su family, and forbade her from ever seeing Sister again. Sister's always been ashamed, that's why she loathes mistresses. But Lchin's expression was cold, unimpressed. The version I heard differs greatly, he said flatly. Kingwin looked confused. He continued, his voice cutting. Your sister and you are only 6 months apart. How could your mother cheat while pregnant? He gave a short, humorless laugh. And your dad met my mom when he was heartbroken, so she comforted him. How comforting, straight to bed despite him being married. His gaze was sharp as a razor. How cruel, sister must have poisoned you against us. Kingwin cried, clutching her chest dramatically. Lchin finally turned to her, his patience gone. Disliking you is true, he stated coldly, raising a hand to stop her from coming any closer. But unlike you, she doesn't gossip. Kingwin was left standing there, humiliated and seething. You misunderstand me, damn it. Huo Lchin found her a moment later, concern on his face. Kingwin, there you are, what's wrong, you look pale. She forced a smile, hiding the fury in her eyes. Nothing, let's dance. But as he led her away, her thoughts were a bitter lament. Asterisk sigh, if only it were Huo Lchin escorting me. Asterisk from a shadowed corner, a woman in red watched them with a contemptuous smirk. For the eldest young master to fancy such trash, Madam will be furious. Meanwhile, Huo Lchin searched the now thinning crowd, a frantic energy about him. Panic began to set in, a cold sweat beading on his brow. Where did she go? Where is she? He finally found her on a secluded balcony, her silhouette ethereal against the moonlit sky. The cool night air swirled around her, but she seemed oblivious. He approached silently, draping his jacket over her delicate shoulders. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with surprise. Before she could speak, he started, his voice raw and urgent. I don't have a fiancé, never did. Who told you that? Who's spreading these rumors? He looked at her, his heart in his eyes. Since meeting her, she's all I can think about. How would I have time for others? But she cut him off, her voice distant. You don't need to explain to me. After disembarking, people from different worlds must return to their own lives. He grabbed her hand, his grip desperate. Isn't this enough? He pleaded, his voice cracking. I'm chasing after you to explain. Doesn't that prove how much I care? He looked utterly lost. Then tell me, he begged, what should I do? She looked up at him, the moonlight dancing in her eyes. A slow, mischievous smile spread across her lips. You, she whispered, her voice a siren's call. Don't tempt me. And with that, she surged forward, crashing her lips against his. For a moment, he was stunned, then he responded with a desperate hunger. The kiss was a whirlwind, a battle of wills and desires. He devoured her, his hands tangling in her hair. Again, she was drowning in him, her lungs burned. She pushed against his chest, gasping for air. But he only pulled her back for more. Finally, they broke apart, panting, their faces inches apart under the full moon. His eyes were dark, his breathing ragged. Still not enough, he murmured, his voice thick with want. What enough? You're hurting me, she protested, her voice breathy. A dangerous smile touched his lips. I want to hurt you, he growled, and before she could react, he leaned down and bit her neck. Ah, she cried out, a sharp sting of pain and shock. She shoved him away with all her might. You dog, she yelled, her hand flying to the mark on her neck. Did you really have to bite, and in such an obvious spot? Bastard. He looked dazed, his fingers touching his own cheek where she had slapped him. Seeing his stunned expression, a wicked idea sparked in her mind. She lunged forward, grabbing his face and pulling him down to her level. She sank her teeth into his neck, a perfect mirror of his crime. You, he gasped, pulling back in shock, a hand flying to the new mark on his own skin. She smirked, triumphant. Happy now? She taunted, sticking her tongue out playfully. Ah, you bit first, she declared before turning and running back towards the ballroom. Cool off here, she called over her shoulder. Don't take too long, I'll wait inside to dance. He was left alone on the balcony, touching the bite mark on his neck with a helpless, exasperated sigh. A slow smile spread across his face. Cool off, he mused to himself, shaking his head. Any longer and I'll turn into a turtle. He leaned against the railing, the city lights twinkling below, his smile turning predatory. Sujinuan, enjoy your smugness while it lasts. His voice was a low, dangerous promise to the night air. Keep lighting fires without putting them out, we have all the time in the world. Back inside, Jinuan made a beeline for the dessert table. She still hadn't eaten enough. As her fingers brushed against a delicate macaron, a larger, warmer hand covered hers. She jumped, startled. Huo Lchin was standing right behind her, his body pressing against hers, his breath warm on her ear. Is it really that good? He whispered. Before she could answer, he plucked the macaron from between her fingers and popped it into his own mouth. Hey, get your own, she protested, turning to glare at him. He leaned in, his eyes gleaming with amusement, his voice a husky murmur. Yours tastes better. The intimate moment a thief stealing a sweet was captured by the cold, unblinking eye of a security camera. In a dark room, a regal woman with an iron expression watched the monitor. Her hands, adorned with expensive rings, were clasped tightly in her lap. A butler stood beside her, his head bowed. Madam, he announced, his voice devoid of emotion, Jenny has brought the person over. The madam's eyes narrowed, a silent promise of a storm to come. A polite inquiry cuts through the murmur of the party. Where is this? A woman asks, her voice a little shaky as she's helped along by her friend. But her eyes widen in shock as she sees who is sitting before them. Lounging elegantly on a plush sofa is a woman exuding an aura of pure power. a delicate teacup held in her manicured fingers. A gasp escapes Su Kingwin's lips. Isn't this, Madame Huo? With a jolt, she and her companion bow their heads respectfully. Greetings, madam, they chime in unison. The older woman's eyes, cool and assessing, drift over them. A fur stole is draped over her shoulders, a picture of untouchable wealth. With a lazy gesture, she invites them to sit. Kingwin feels a shiver run down her spine. This was the legendary matriarch of the Huo family. Her commanding presence was even more intense in person. Madame Huo's gaze then flicks to a large screen on the wall where a video is playing. A woman in a beautiful gown is dancing with a handsome man. The matriarch's voice is like ice as she asks, "This girl? She's your elder sister?" Kingwin's heart stutters. Sujinuan, she confirms, a knot of resentment tightening in her stomach. She explains that Jinuan is her half-sister from her father's first marriage. Madame Huo takes a slow, deliberate sip of her tea, her eyes never leaving Kingwin's face. "I heard her mother was banished by your father for infidelity. Is that true?" The question hangs in the air, heavy and sharp. This wasn't a casual inquiry, it was an interrogation. Kingwin forces a demure expression, explaining she was too young to know the details but that the old family servants confirmed the rumors to be true. A sneer touches Madame Huo's lips. A proper girl, having such a mother, she muses, her voice dripping with contempt. Her eyes narrow into dangerous slits. "The daughter of a disgraced woman is unworthy to stand beside my son." The words are a death sentence, but Kingwin sees her opening. She leans forward eagerly, her voice filled with manufactured sincerity. "Madam, I'd be honored to assist you." A slow, cruel smile spreads across Madame Huo's face. "I invited you precisely for this purpose," she says, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Succeed, and you'll be rewarded handsomely." But then she adds a chilling warning, her eyes fixed on Kingwin. "However, Shaun is introverted. I won't tolerate him being hurt. End things with him promptly." Kingwin's face falls. She starts to protest, stammering that she and brother Xuan are just friends. But a stern voice cuts her off. The butler steps forward, her expression unyielding. "Second Miss Su, madam needs to rest now. Please leave." "But madam, believe me, we're just friends." The words die on her lips as the door slams shut in her face with a deafening crash. Rage, hot and ugly, contorts Kingwin's features. Her fists clench at her sides. "Damn it, how dare a lowly butler act so arrogantly? Just wait," she fumes internally, "just wait until I marry into this family. You'll all be packing your bags." She storms away, her limp more pronounced, and barks at a figure standing in her path. "Hey, you're blocking the way. If you're limping, move aside." But as she looks up, her venomous expression melts away in an instant, replaced by a sickly sweet smile. Standing before her is Lindsia, radiant in a shimmering golden gown. "Miss Lin," Kingwin gushes, her voice dripping with false admiration. "You look as radiant as always today. Your gown compliments young Master Huo perfectly. A golden couple, how enviable." She thinks to herself, asterisk, even random nobodies think they can bully me now. Asterisk, Lindsia just smiles, a slow, knowing smile that doesn't reach her eyes. She leans in close, her voice a low, dangerous whisper. "The woman who is currently with him is your dear sister." The words are a dagger's point. Her golden eyes flash with a shared hatred. "We don't share the same mother, Miss Lin." Kingwin retorts, "She's our common enemy." Lindsia's smile widens. Standing tall and imperious, she declares, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Let's be allies." Ha, Kingwin's mind reels. "An alliance? You want to be my friend?" Before she can even process the offer, a hand shoves her chest hard. A scream tears from her throat as she loses her balance. "You, my friend? In your dreams?" Lindsia's voice echoes as Kingwin falls backward down the stairs, crying out for help. She lands with a sickening thud. Just as Huo Lchin and Sujinuan appear at the top of the staircase, their eyes wide with shock. Sprawled on the marble floor, Kingwin clutches her ankle, her face a mask of pain. "Ah, that hurts," she whimpers. Jinuan looks down from the top of the stairs, her expression completely unimpressed. "What act are you putting on now?" she asks, her voice flat. Kingwin's eyes fill with crocodile tears. "I sprained my ankle," she sobs. "I lost my balance and fell down the stairs." Jinuan smirks to herself, asterisk, thick-skinned, superficial wounds, and just perfect timing with Huo Lchin here to perform for asterisk. Jinuan's voice cuts through the drama, sharp and clear. "Did you fall or were you pushed?" The question hangs in the air, a direct challenge. Kingwin's eyes flicker with panic. She immediately changes her tune, shaking her head tearfully. "It's nobody's fault, I just slipped and fell." Jinuan crosses her arms, a flicker of amusement in her eyes. Asterisk, "I'm impressed. You win. No wonder she's hooked so many rich men. Her tolerance for humiliation is unreal." Asterisk, Huo Lchin's voice is stern. "All right, get up now." Jinuan sighs and descends the stairs, offering a hand to her sister. But the moment she's on her feet, Kingwin leans her full weight against her, crying out in pain. "Ah, it really hurts." This is it, her perfect opportunity. With a sudden lurch, she stumbles forward, aiming straight for Huo Lchin. Ah, she trips and falls dramatically towards him. Jinuan's eyes widen in disgust. Can you be any more shameless? I never touched her." Lchin raises his hands in defense, stepping back as Kingwin collapses in a heap on the floor, crying out, "It hurts so much." Kingwin, and right on cue, a worried voice calls her name. Huo Lchin rushes past them, his face etched with concern. He kneels, gathering the sobbing Kingwin into his arms. "Don't cry, Kingwin," he murmurs softly. Jinuan tries to intervene. Big brother, you didn't see what happened. This woman isn't as innocent as you think. She's not right for you. Huo Lchin watches the scene with an unreadable expression. His voice is cold and final as he addresses his brother. Whether she's right for me is my decision. With that, he turns to Jinuan, his tone softening slightly. Kingwin, let's go. As they walk away, leaving Shaun to comfort the weeping schemer, Jinuan can't help but mutter, Kingwin's acting skills are Oscar-worthy, transforming into a gentle lamb around men. Lchin glances at her, a wry twist to his lips. Your elder brother has unique taste. And then so subtly she almost misses it, his hand finds hers, his fingers lacing through her own. Her heart skips a beat. She looks at him, really looks at him, and her professional instincts kick in. The signs are there, in his eyes and the tension in his jaw. This person has depression, her mind spins. How? The Huo family was one of the wealthiest in the nation. Shaun was an adopted son, but rumors said Madame Huo treated him better than her biological son, giving him endless money. Why would someone like that be depressed? Suddenly, Lchin's voice cuts through her thoughts. Come with me. He tugs her hand, pulling her along. Where? She asks, stumbling to keep up. They're on a massive cruise ship, the lights of the party fading behind them. No, I can't leave yet, the donor issue isn't fixed. His reply is swift and cold, not your choice, before she can protest further. He moves with shocking speed. In one fluid motion, he scoops her into his arms, throwing her over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes. Huo Lchin, what are you doing? She shrieks, his voice is a low growl near her ear. Keep struggling and I'll throw you to the sharks. Mortification burns through her. You, how dare you, my butt. He carries her effortlessly onto the deck of a sleek private yacht, the city lights twinkling in the distance. He sets her down and she immediately rounds on him, her face flushed with anger. Huo Lchin, you bastard, I hate you. He just watches her, his expression unreadable. And as she opens her mouth to scream at him again, he grabs her arm, pulls her close, and silences her with a kiss. The world dissolves into a dizzying swirl of stars and the soft light of the moon. The kiss deepens, demanding and passionate. She pushes against his chest, her protests muffled against his lips. Huo Lchin, don't do this. His eyes are blazing as he pulls back just enough to whisper, Sujinuan, I'm done holding back. Panic floods her veins. Asterisk, that night was a fleeting affair, a mistake. What does he take me for? Asterisk, her thoughts race, chaotic and desperate. Asterisk, Yuan still lying in the hospital. I can't keep making mistakes. Asterisk. With a surge of adrenaline, she bites down hard on his lip. He recoils in pain and she shoves him away with all her might. He stumbles back a step, and she gasps for breath, her heart pounding. Huo Lchin turned the yacht around. He straightens his jacket, a dangerous smirk playing on his lips. It's just you and me here, he says softly, his voice a velvet threat. If I really wanted to force you, do you think you could escape? His eyes glitter in the moonlight. Sujinuan, you're so naive. He steps closer, but I like that. She backs away until the cold railing presses against her spine. If you dare, she threatens, her voice trembling but defiant, I'll jump right now. Her eyes flash with conviction. No one's ever forced me to do what I don't want. To her shock, he smiles, a genuine, almost amused smile. Then jump, he says simply, go ahead. He leans against the railing casually. Don't blame me if I don't warn you, there are sharks in these waters. She glares at him, calling his bluff. Stop bluffing. If there were sharks, the sea wouldn't be this calm. He chuckles, pushing off the railing and taking a slow step towards her. Exactly, I am bluffing. His voice drops, becoming serious and tense, so still jumping. He stops just before her. If not, come here, you need money, don't you? Name your price, I'll give it all. Her blood runs cold, he knows. Huo Lchin, you investigated me, she whispers, horrified. His expression is pained. I thought your troubles were common knowledge. He reaches for her, his voice pleading. Sujinuan, just say the word, your needs become mine. It hurts me to see you struggle alone like this. She turns her head away, looking out at the glittering water. What pretty words, what woman wouldn't swoon, but... A bitter laugh escapes her. Heh. She turns back to him, her eyes shining with defiance. Huo Lchin, you've been the golden boy since birth. Do you think no one even has the right to refuse you? He looks genuinely stunned, at a loss for words. What more do you want from me? He asks, his voice raw. I've never felt this way about another woman. You're the only one. A brilliant, dazzling smile spreads across her face. Fine, she says, her voice ringing with triumph. Then thank me for giving you another vividly memorable experience. And with that, she leans back, letting gravity take her. The splash echoes in the silent night. Huo Lchin's face drains of all color, his composure shattering into a million pieces. Sujinuan, he screams, his voice cracking with pure terror. His mind flashes back to his earlier bluff. Damn it, I told you there were sharks. He stumbles back, his heart hammering against his ribs. F***ck, Sujinuan, you're unbelievable. Frantically, he rips at his tie, his eyes wild with panic. You've got nerve. Beneath the dark, glittering surface, bubbles rise around Jinuan. She opens her eyes, the salt water stinging. There, the cruise ship is ahead. She begins to swim with all her might. But then something wraps around her ankle, cold and strong. She looks down. It's not a shark. It's seaweed, thick and tangled, pulling her down. She kicks and struggles, but it only tightens its grip. Why can't I break free? Water fills her mouth, and she chokes, her lungs screaming for air. No, I'm at my limit. The lights of the ship blur, her strength fading as the darkness of the deep ocean pulls her under. Her consciousness slips away, a single perfect bubble escaping her lips like a final tear. Asterisk, am I going to die here? Asterisk, the world dissolved into a silent blue abyss. Strong hands gently cupped her face, and as bubbles danced around them like lost stars, his lips met hers. It was a kiss that stole the very breath from her lungs, a memory both beautiful and terrifying. Huo Lchin, her mind screamed his name even as her body was pulled deeper into the cold embrace of the water. The surreal image of jellyfish floating past them did little to calm the chaos in her heart. Suddenly he was struggling, his arm tangled in something green and menacing. He fought against the deep, pulling her with him, their bodies ascending through the murky depths. Up towards the shimmering surface, a beacon of hope in the suffocating darkness. With a violent gasp, she broke through the water's surface. Air flooding her burning lungs, she coughed and sputtered, her vision blurred by water and panic. Ha, the sounds were animalistic, desperate. She was alive, she was saved. The realization hit her, followed by a wave of cold, stark terror. Her eyes, wide and frantic, scanned the deck of the yacht. He wasn't there, a knot of ice formed in her stomach. Wait, where's Huo Lchin? She scrambled to the edge of the boat, her wet dress clinging to her like a second skin. Huo Lchin, where are you? She screamed into the vast, indifferent expanse of the ocean. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the salt water. Huo Lchin, don't scare me like this, come up now. Her voice cracked, a raw, desperate plea. Her mind was a battlefield. How could this be happening? Why was she crying for him? She covered her mouth, trying to stifle the sobs that racked her body. I'm supposed to hate him. I'm supposed to despise everything he stands for. Her fingers clenched the fabric of her dress, the material groaning under the strain. That detestable Huo Lchin, but he saved me again and again. A fierce resolve hardened her tear-filled eyes. Huo Lchin, please be okay. I can't let him die, not like this. Wait for me, I'm coming to save you too. As she screamed his name one last time, ready to plunge back into the icy depths, a heavy thud echoed from the deck. She whipped her head around to see him hoisting himself over the railing, his black shirt soaked and clinging to his powerful frame, his hair plastered to his forehead. He looked exhausted, but his eyes, those piercing blue eyes, were fixed on her. His voice was rough as he asked if she was all right. Relief washed over her, so potent it left her weak, but it was immediately followed by a surge of pure, unadulterated rage. You bastard! She shrieked, launching herself at him. Where did you run off to? You scared me to death. Her small fists hammered against his solid chest. He let her vent, a slow, infuriating smirk spreading across his lips as he looked down at her. So you do worry about me, he mused, his voice a low rumble. I thought you were truly heartless toward me. She froze, her cheeks flushing a deep crimson. Who's worried about you? She retorted, pushing him away. I'm worried about myself. If you died, what would I do alone here? I don't even know how to drive this boat. He simply stared at her, his smirk softening into something unreadable, and then he leaned in. Before she could protest, his lips captured hers in a soft, searching kiss. The world tilted on its axis, her anger melting away into stunned confusion as he gently held her. As he pulled back, the cold finally caught up with her, and she let out an involuntary, delicate sneeze. Achoo. His gaze dropped, his expression instantly hardening as he spotted the angry red scrape on her leg. You are injured. His voice was low, all traces of amusement gone. There's a bathroom and clothes in the guest cabin, he stated, his tone leaving no room for argument. Go change. And before she could even form a reply, he swept her off her feet, carrying her into the yacht as if she weighed nothing at all. Wrapped in a plush white robe, she felt a shiver run through her, and another sneeze escaped her lips. She was definitely catching a cold. Just then, Huo Lchin appeared in the doorway, a glass of water and some pills in his hand. Here's fever medicine, take it. He placed them beside her, his movements surprisingly gentle. He sat down, holding a cup of warm water out to her. Drink more warm water, be good. The command, softened by his concerned tone, grated on her nerves. Don't treat me like a pet, she snapped, snatching the cup from his hand. He just looked at her, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. Where do you get these strange ideas? He asked, his voice laced with amusement. She glared at him, her cheeks puffed out. Isn't this just another rich man's game, treating women like playthings? He leaned in closer, his warm breath ghosting across her ear. Your imagination is truly impressive, he murmured, his voice a seductive whisper that sent a shiver down her spine. His eyes held hers, a mysterious glint in their depths. You're the forgetful one, he said softly. What you said at the nightclub, have you already forgotten? What did I say? Her mind was a blank. Frustrated and flustered, she turned away with a huff. What did I say, something to make you angry this time? He asked, leaning over her shoulder. He got no response. He leaned closer, only to hear the soft, even sound of her breathing. She was asleep, curled up in the blanket like a little caterpillar, her face peaceful and unguarded. A genuine warm smile touched his lips. Adorable. He gently stood up and picked up her discarded, soaked pink dress. In the bathroom, he turned on the faucet and began to carefully wash the delicate fabric with his own hands. He paused, his eyes fixed on the small garment. And it was so tiny. A strange heat crept up his neck, his cheeks flushing a surprising shade of red. Damn it, he muttered, splashing water on his face. What am I thinking? He felt like a fool, scrubbing away at the small piece of clothing like a blushing teenager. After carefully hanging it up to dry, he returned to her side. She was still sound asleep, looking so utterly defenseless. Falling asleep so defenselessly around me, he whispered, his fingers gently tracing the curve of her cheek. You trust me that much? A dangerous thought crossed his mind. Maybe I should teach you a lesson. He leaned in, his lips just inches from hers, his hand tightening its grip slightly. But then he stopped. He pulled back abruptly, covering his own flushed face with his hand. With a deep, frustrated sigh, he stood up. Forget it. Guess I'll have to rely on my own hand. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the window. Sujinuan stirred, a soft moan escaping her lips as she stretched. "Ah, what time is it?" she mumbled, sitting up. Her fever was gone. She felt good. She looked around the empty room. Huo Lchin. A strange noise from the corner of the room caught her attention. Her eyes widened as she saw him, his back to her, his body tense. He was breathing heavily. He turned at the sound of her voice, his face a brilliant shade of crimson, his eyes wide with shock. Her brain short-circuited. She stared at him, then at his hands, and her mind, in its panic state, conjured a single mortifying image. An eggplant, ah, she shrieked, her voice echoing through the cabin. Huo Lchin, you pervert. The scream was so loud it could have been heard from shore. Meanwhile, in a lavishly decorated home, another drama was unfolding. Kingwin looked up at Huo Lchin, her expression a perfect mask of sorrow. He was so handsome, so kind, but he wasn't enough. What a pity, she thought, her heart cold as ice. Lchin's just an adopted son, if only he were a true-born Huo heir. Tears welled in her eyes, beautiful, crystalline drops of pure deception. She pulled her hand from his. Lchin, she whispered, her voice breaking artfully, we should break up. His face fell, confusion and hurt warring in his eyes. Why? He demanded, grabbing her arm. Everything was fine. I promised to marry you. I'll take responsibility. She shook her head, wrenching her arm free. Don't you understand? We're from completely different worlds. The tears flowed freely now. I'm not good enough for you. Just let me go. He looked desperate. Did my family say something to you? She turned away, delivering the final, crushing blow. I've just come to understand my place. Lchin, I wish you happiness. With that, she pushed past him, ignoring his desperate calls of her name as she fled. Her mother was waiting for her, a worried look on her face. What's going on? She asked. Kingwin's tears vanished in an instant, replaced by a triumphant, chilling smile. Mom, she said, her voice smooth as silk, didn't you want me to marry into a wealthy family? Your dream is about to come true. Her mother's eyes lit up. Really? Are things working out with the Huo family's eldest son? Kingwin's smile widened. How could it be him? He's just an adopted son. Her mind was already spinning its web of deceit. Madame Huo despises Sujinuan. She's made it clear. If I help break them up, she'll reward me handsomely. She'll definitely agree to let me marry into the Huo family. Her mother squealed with delight, hugging her tightly. Oh my, Kingwin, you're amazing. That's my daughter. Kingwin's eyes glinted with cold ambition as she returned the hug. Of course, I'll surpass my teacher. Now, I just need to devise a perfect plan that kills two birds with one stone. Back on the yacht, Sujinuan finally stirred from her bed, her cheeks still pink with embarrassment. Last night, I accidentally saw Huo Lchin doing that. I couldn't fall back asleep until 2 a.m. She padded out of the room just as he walked in. You're awake, he said, his voice even, her eyes widened. He was holding a bowl. You must be hungry. I made congee, have some. She stared at him, then at the bowl, utterly speechless. You can cook congee. He sat her down, placing the bowl in front of her. A muscle in his jaw twitched. It won't kill you, he grumbled. This is my first time cooking. If you dare complain, I'll throw you to the sharks. She peered into the bowl. It was filled with shrimp and other expensive-looking ingredients. A giggle escaped her lips. Ah, why are you laughing? Is me cooking for you funny? He asked, his brow furrowed. She shook her head, a genuine smile lighting up her face. No, I'm just really happy. No one's ever made congee for me when I was sick before. She took a spoonful, her smile faltering, and then her eyes widened in surprise. It actually tastes pretty good, so delicious. The shrimp is so springy, the flavor so rich, she exclaimed, taking another bite. He watched her eat, the hard lines of his face softening. You've had such a hard life, he murmured, his voice barely a whisper. I want. She looked up, confused. Suddenly, his hand was cupping her cheek, his thumb gently stroking her skin. His blue eyes were intense, serious. Be my girlfriend. The spoon clattered against the bowl. The world stopped. Did I hear wrong? He leaned closer, his voice low but firm. Sujinuan, I'm serious. Be my girlfriend. Her mind was a whirlwind of confusion and shock. He's serious? He can't be serious, can he? A slow, dangerous smile spread across his lips. If you don't say no, I'll take it as a yes. And before she could even breathe, he closed the distance between them, his mouth capturing hers in a kiss that was both a question and a demand. He held her tightly, deepening the kiss, leaving her utterly breathless and confused. When he finally pulled back, her eyes were dazed, her lips swollen. What's wrong? She thought, her mind a complete blank as she stared into the eyes of the man who had just turned her entire world upside down. Her words caught in her throat, a clumsy attempt to soften the blow. I was just too shocked, it's not that I. But his face told a different story. The hope in his eyes flickered and died, replaced by a cold, sharp disappointment. Are you saying you're rejecting me? He asked, his voice low and devoid of warmth. The air grew thick with unspoken words, with the chasm that was suddenly widening between them. She couldn't meet his gaze. Her own eyes, shimmering with unshed tears, were fixed on the floor as she whispered a single, devastating word. I'm sorry. The tension in his hand, the one that had been gripping her arm, vanished. He let go. Without another word, he turned his back on her, a silent, final gesture of departure. She watched his silhouette retreat, her heart hammering against her ribs. Asterisk, he must be furious now, asterisk. A shaky breath escaped her lips. The immediate danger had passed, but a deep aching sadness settled in her chest. Asterisk, after being rejected like this, he'll probably hate me forever, asterisk. Trying to shake off the melancholy, her eyes drifted to the clothesline and then widened in confusion. Wait, where are my underwear? They couldn't have just blown away, could they? She leaned over the railings, her long hair cascading over her shoulders as she peered down at the churning sea below. Suddenly, a furious roar shattered the quiet. Sujinuan. Before she could even process the sound, strong arms wrapped around her waist, yanking her back from the edge with brutal force. It was Huo Lchin. His face was pale, his eyes wide with a terror she'd never seen before. You think jumping in the sea will escape me? He snarled, his voice raw with panic. You were just feverish last night. Are you trying to kill yourself? His expression was a storm of fear and rage. A genuine terror that he might lose her. She stared at him, utterly bewildered by his accusation. You thought I was jumping? She asked, her voice small. Do I look that suicidal? His panic receded, replaced by a wounded pride. He let her go, his jaw tight. Just say the word, he said, his voice laced with ice. If you don't want me, just say it. Huo Lchin doesn't beg for affection. A blush crept up her neck as the real reason for her strange behavior came rushing back. It's not you, she stammered, her mind spinning. It's my underwear, they're missing. He froze. For a second, he just stared at her, his brilliant blue eyes blinking in disbelief. A single bead of sweat trickled down his temple. Then his expression morphed into pure, unadulterated outrage. Underwear? He repeated, his voice dangerously low. Don't tell me you suspected asterisk I asterisk stole them. The accusation hung in the air, vibrating with his fury. What kind of pervert do you take me for? She flinched back, stammering no. But then a spark of defiance lit her eyes. Can you blame me after what you did last night? His composure finally cracked, but just as quickly he reined it in, his face becoming a cool, indifferent mask. Relax, he said with a dismissive wave. If I wanted them, I'd ask you directly. I'll have housekeeping find them for you. He turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, her cheeks burning with embarrassment and something else she couldn't quite name. The sea air felt crisp and clean as they finally set foot on solid ground. The gentle sway of the cruise ship was gone, but a different kind of vertigo was setting in. He draped his jacket over her shoulders, the warmth of the fabric a stark contrast to the chill between them. Let me drive you to the hospital, he offered, his voice carefully neutral. But she shrugged off the jacket, pushing it back into his hands. No need, she said, her voice just as cold. Thank you, Huo Lchin. Her heart felt like a block of ice in her chest. Asterisk, this is it. The moment we disembark, we part ways, asterisk. Asterisk, since I don't want to get involved with him, we should go our separate paths. Asterisk, he watched her, his expression hardening. This woman really knows how to infuriate someone. Is she really this cold? A desperate plea echoed in his mind. Asterisk, just turn around, Sujinuan, please just look back once. Asterisk. Asterisk, if you look back, I swear I'll drop everything and run to hold you. Asterisk, but she didn't. She walked away, her back straight and unyielding, and got into a waiting taxi. The car door slammed shut, a sound as final as a gillet. He stood there alone on the pier, his fists clenched at his sides. Sujinuan, he seethed through gritted teeth, you've got nerve. A bitter self-loathing promise formed in his heart. Asterisk, if I ever seek you out again, I'm a damn dog. Asterisk. Inside the taxi, her carefully constructed walls began to crumble. Huo Lchin, she whispered to the empty car. If it weren't for Yuan, if his life wasn't hanging in the balance, she knew she would never be this indecisive. But with life and death on the line, how could she possibly dare to indulge in something as fragile as romance? A single hot tear traced a path down her cheek. She wiped it away with fierce determination. Asterisk, right now I must guard my heart. Asterisk. Asterisk, I have no energy for love's joys or pains. I can't afford to collapse. Asterisk. The atmosphere in the Su villa was thick with the clatter of mahjong tiles and stale perfume. Jinuan walked in, looking like a ghost in a borrowed jacket. Her stepmother, Madame Su, didn't even look up from her game, her voice dripping with disdain. Young women these days are so unruly, staying out all night, coming home wearing men's clothes. Jinuan ignored her, her face a blank mask. But her stepsister Kingwin rose from the table, a saccharine smile on her face. Whose jacket is that? She cooed, her eyes glinting with malice. Sis, I've warned you before, stop fooling around with those shady men. What if you get pregnant and don't even know who the father is? She leaned in close, her sweet tone turning venomous. Get lost, she hissed, her smile never wavering. That was the last straw. Jinuan shoved her heart. Kingwin stumbled back, letting out a theatrical cry as she collapsed onto the floor. Instantly, her face crumpled into a mask of hurt innocence. I was just concerned about you, sis, she whimpered, tears welling in her eyes. The other women at the table immediately rounded on Jinuan. Kingwin wasn't entirely wrong, one of them tutted. Sujinuan, you've gone too far, another added. Madame Su shot up from her chair, her face contorted with rage. You disrespectful, ill-mannered brat, she shrieked, raising her hand to strike. Even if I'm labeled an evil stepmother, I'll teach you a lesson today. But before her hand could connect, Jinuan's fingers clamped around her wrist like a vice, her eyes, cold and sharp as shards of glass, met her stepmother's. Try laying a finger on me, she warned, her voice deadly calm. Don't think I won't fight back. The women gasped, shocked into silence by her audacity. A stepmother is still a mother, how can you be so unfilial? Madame Su sputtered. A humorless laugh escaped Jinuan's lips. Would you call someone mom who schemed to frame your real mother for adultery just to take her place? The accusation hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Jinuan's gaze shifted to her cowering stepsister. We're less than 6 months apart in age, she stated, her voice cutting through the silence. Anyone with half a brain can figure out what happened. She looked back at the stunned women. But since you choose to associate with a homewrecker, I have nothing more to say. The room erupted. Madame Su's friends scrambled to their feet, their faces masks of disgust. Mrs. Su, I never knew you were this despicable, one of them exclaimed. We can't be friends. Another added, I detest homewreckers, don't contact me again. They fled as if the house was on fire, leaving Madame Su sputtering amidst the ruins of her social gathering. Jinuan watched them go, a small grim smile playing on her lips. HMPH, they are just getting what they deserve. Just then her phone buzzed. She answered, only to be met with a barrage of shouting from her manager. Do you still want this job? Missing for days? Don't think Huo's backing lets you skip work. We don't need divas here. Jinuan's blood ran cold. Manager, I asked Hong to request leave for me, but he cut her off. She said nothing. I know you've been absent for 3 days without notice. Go play with Huo full time. Her mind raced. Zia was off that day. Hong volunteered to help. A horrifying realization dawned on her. The foundation had stopped her living allowance. She couldn't afford to lose this job. Just then Hong appeared, her hands clasped together in apology. Su, I'm sorry. After my breakup, I forgot to submit your leave request. Jinuan forced a smile, pushing down the rising panic. My responsibility, not yours, it's okay. She quickly reapplied her lipstick, her hands trembling slightly. I'll get back to work now. As she walked away, Hong watched her go, her apologetic expression melting away into something ugly and resentful. What does Huo see in her? She muttered to her reflection. Just because she's pretty, what's so special? A smug, confident smile spread across her face as she checked her appearance in the mirror. Leaving the restroom, she turned a corner and collided with a hard chest. Ah, she cried, stumbling backwards, only to be caught by a surprisingly strong grip. The man was flushed, reeking of alcohol and mumbling incoherently. Alcohol, need more alcohol. Her eyes widened. It was Huo Lchin's brother, and he was completely wasted. Huo Lchin, she gasped. He was staring at her with hazy, unfocused eyes. A memory surfaced, Madame Huo saying she was drawn to Lchin because his beautiful phoenix eyes resembled hers. He clung to Jinuan, his breath hot against her ear. Kingwin, don't leave me. I really like you. I truly like you, please. Jinuan tried to pry his hands off her. Young Master Huo, you've mistaken me, she said firmly. I'm not Su. Kingwin, let go. But he only held on tighter, his drunken pleas growing more desperate. Kingwin, don't leave me, don't break up with me. His grip was like iron, she was trapped, and that's when she felt it, a sudden bone-deep chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. She looked up and her heart stopped. Huo Lchin stood in the door, his face a thunderous mask. He had come here to drown his sorrows, maybe even to look for her, and this is what he found. His own brother clinging to the woman who had just rejected him. Huo Lchin, she gasped, her voice barely a whisper. The drunken Lchin, oblivious, chose that exact moment to slur. I like you, I want to marry you, come home with me. Lchin's fist clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. His voice, when he finally spoke, was a low, terrifying growl. So this is why you rejected me. Panic seized her. That's not it, you've misunderstood. She cried, trying to push Lchin away. Desperate, she turned to the drunken man. Huo Lchin, I'll listen to you, I'll obey. If you tell me not to donate marrow, I won't. The room fell silent. Huo Lchin's eyes widened in shock. What did you say? He demanded, grabbing her. You were going to donate bone marrow to a leukemia patient. Hearing the word donate, Lchin mumbled. I won't donate, Kingwin won't donate anymore, just don't leave me. The pieces clicked into place, forming a picture so ugly it stole Jinuan's breath. A tear of pure, bitter realization slid down her cheek. It's Huo Lchin, he was the donor all along. And he changed his mind because of Su Kingwin's demands. Before she could say another word, 2 men in black suits appeared, grabbing Lchin. Young Master Huo's orders were taking Lchin home. Jinuan lunged after them, but wait, hold on. She cried, her voice cracking with desperation. The bone marrow donation. A figure blocked her path. Huo Lchin stood before her, his face carved from ice. Huo Lchin, move aside, she pleaded. I'll explain everything later. His voice was flat, devoid of all emotion. I won't let you near him. He grabbed her arm, his grip bruisingly tight. What are you talking about? That hurts, let me go, she cried out. His eyes were filled with a cold, bitter disappointment. I thought after yesterday you'd treat me differently. He gave a curt nod to his bodyguards. Young master, one of them said, take the eldest young master home. As they dragged Shaun away, Jinuan struggled against Lchin's hold. Release me, she screamed. Huo Lchin, you didn't even ask what I think. He said nothing. In one swift, shocking movement, he swept her off her feet and into his arms. Ah, what are you doing? She shrieked, but he ignored her, carrying her through the building. He didn't stop until he reached a private suite where he unceremoniously tossed her onto the bed. He loomed over her, his shadow swallowing her whole. She looked up at him, her eyes pleading. Why? She whispered. Why does it have to be your brother? His face was a canvas of exhaustion and heartbreak, his eyes dark with a pain that mirrored her own. His hand shot out, cool fingers wrapping around her chin, tilting her face up to meet his piercing gaze. His voice was a low murmur, a dangerous whisper in the quiet room, promising her the world. He was the true heir of the Huo family. He reminded her he could give her anything she could possibly want. But his eyes, those brilliant blue eyes, held a flicker of something she hadn't expected. Vulnerability, a question hung in the air between them, heavy and fragile. Do you really hate me that much? He asked. The words erupted from her throat, raw and unrestrained. Hate you? Yes, I hate you. She screamed, the sound echoing the shattering of her composure. How could he even ask? Did he think his money could buy forgiveness? Did he think he was so great just because he was rich? Her eyes, shimmering with unshed tears and burning with fury, stared right into his. I hate your arrogant attitude most of all. The words were a venomous torrent. I hate you, get away from me. His face contorted, the vulnerability vanishing, replaced by a mask of pure, ugly rage. He grabbed her shoulder, his grip like iron, yanking her closer. His voice dropped, becoming a low, guttural snarl that dripped with poison. You hate me so much you'd choose my brother instead? He hissed, his words designed to cut her to the very core. What is he better in bed than me? The question struck her like a physical blow, her eyes widened in disbelief. A gasp catching in her throat. What did he just say? The cruelty of it, the sheer vulgarity, stole the air from her lungs. They say the most hurtful words always come from those who matter most. And in that moment, she knew it was true. A wave of white-hot fury surged through her. With a guttural cry, she kicked out, her heel connecting squarely with his chest with a sickening thud. The force of it sent a shockwave through her own body, but she didn't care. Huo Lchin, go to hell, she shrieked, her voice cracking with pain and rage. I never want to see you again. Her chest heaved, her whole body trembling with the aftermath of the explosion. But his expression barely changed. An icy calm settled over him as he straightened his jacket. Don't want to see me? He repeated, a cruel smirk playing on his lips. He was her customer now, he reminded her coldly, and he demanded she serve him personally. Young Master Huo, she began, her voice shaking but steady. She tried to reason with him, telling him there were plenty of other beauties eager to attend to him. But his eyes locked on hers, cold and possessive. I want you, he stated, his voice leaving no room for argument. Trapped, she was utterly trapped. A wicked thought sparked in her mind. Fine, if he wanted her to serve him, she would serve him. A saccharine sweet smile plastered itself on her face. Fine, understood, I'll get your drinks now, she chirped. Her inner voice, however, was dripping with malice. Asterisk, I'll give him the most expensive ones, run up his tab until his wallet bleeds, asterisk. She brought him drink after drink. He downed them without a word, his gaze distant, his movements fluid and detached. One glass, then another, he was drinking far too much, far too fast. Her initial plan to punish his bank account was dissolving into a pool of genuine concern. This was dangerous. This was self-destruction. She finally stepped forward, her voice soft with worry. You're drinking too much, trying to get alcohol poisoning? He looked up, his brilliant blue eyes clouded with drink and something darker. What gives you the right to stop me? He slurred slightly. She flinched, explaining that even a stranger would be concerned. The word hung in the air between them, sharp and painful. A stranger, he repeated, his voice cracking. The look in his eyes, it was pure heartbreak. So that's all I am to you? He poured the rest of the wine into his glass and downed it in one go. Empty, I'll get another bottle, she said, her voice barely a whisper as she turned to leave, needing to escape the suffocating weight of his pain. But as she walked away, she heard a soft gasp behind her. He was clutching his stomach, his face pale and slick with a cold sweat. Just then the door opened and Assistant Shen rushed in, calling out for his young master. His eyes widened in horror when he saw the scene. Have you lost your mind? He cried out, rushing to Huo Lchin's side. With your stomach condition. Huo Lchin's eyes narrowed into dangerous slits. A moment later, Assistant Shen returned with a report. Investigation complete, he announced. Miss Su asked a coworker Hong to request 3 days leave for her. Hong never submitted it. The manager forced Miss Su to work tonight. So that's what happened. She had been set up. The report continued, revealing that Hong had a reputation for sabotaging coworkers and specifically targeted Miss Su. Huo Lchin's gaze was glacial. You know what to do, he said, his voice flat and deadly. Understood, Shen replied, before turning his attention back to his master's health. Young master, if you miss Miss Su, just say so. No need to torture yourself. Huo Lchin exploded. Who said it's about her? He roared, grabbing the nearest object and hurling it across the room. I don't need reasons to drink. Assistant Shen just sighed, muttering about the endless torment of lovesickness. His words trailing off as Huo Lchin's cold glare silenced him. Just then the manager scurried in, announcing that Miss Su was back. Jinuan entered, holding a new bottle of wine. She poured him a glass, her movements graceful and detached. He took it and drank it down in a single desperate gulp. But as he slammed the glass down, a wave of dizziness washed over him. Why? He mumbled, his hand flying to his head. The room was spinning. A single cold tear escaped his eye as he looked at her through a hazy fog. So dizzy, what did you put in my drink? He accused, his voice thick. She looked at him, her expression unreadable. Want more? She asked calmly. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks. You actually drugged me, he whispered, disbelief warring with the encroaching darkness. She moved closer, gently taking his arm to support him. Assistant Shen told me you have a stomach condition, she explained, her voice soft and full of a strange, reluctant care. If you kept drinking, I was afraid you'd die here. He slumped against her, his body heavy and unresponsive. It's just strong sedatives, she murmured, easing him onto the couch. Rest here for a while. But as she tried to pull away, his hand shot out, his fingers wrapping around hers in a surprisingly strong grip. His eyes were closed, but his voice was a desperate, slurred plea. Sujinuan, don't you dare, leave. Her heart skipped a beat. This guy, even asleep, he's still so domineering. She gazed down at his sleeping face, a whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. Leaning down close, she whispered his name, Huo Lchin. Her voice was barely audible, a secret just for him. Give me some time, wait for me, okay? Straightening up, she called for Assistant Shen to come in. As she tried to leave, she realized Huo Lchin's grip was still ironclad on her wrist. He wasn't budging. How is his grip still this strong when he's asleep? Assistant Shen looked worried, but she just smiled reassuringly. It's fine, I'll handle it, she said, gently prying his fingers open. I gave him a heavy dose, he should sleep until tomorrow. As she turned to go, Assistant Shen stopped her. Miss Su, he began, his expression serious. You might not believe this, but you were actually the young master's first love. He explained that Huo Lchin only knew how to charge ahead, that his bossiness and overbearing nature were just clumsy ways of showing he cared too much. The words settled in her heart, heavy and confusing. Her eyes clouded over with a sad understanding. In life there are always choices and duties. Love is just a small part of it. Assistant Shen nodded grimly, you're right. After she left, Shen looked down at his sleeping master with a sigh. Young master, it's time to let go, he murmured. Madame Huo has already chosen a bride for you. Miles away, Jinuan stared out into the night, a profound sadness washing over her. Asterisk Sujinuan, you need to wake up too, asterisk she told herself. Asterisk no one can wait for you forever, asterisk. The next day, her manager informed her of a sudden change. HR had made some adjustments, she was being moved to the front desk. A demotion, why? The manager just smiled placatingly, calling it a great deal, easy work. As she was led to her new post, her mind reeled, asterisk weird, why would he fall into my lap, asterisk she thought, still confused by his actions. Her phone buzzed, shaking her from her thoughts. It was a text from Nuan Yu. I found out the donor is the eldest son of the Huo family, Huo Shaoxuan. Su Kingwin stopped him from donating. Jinuan's fingers flew across the screen. You're amazing so fast. Nuan Yu's reply came instantly. Don't worry about money, I have savings, I'll cover the surgery costs. Tears welled in Jinuan's eyes. Thank you, she typed, her heart overflowing with gratitude, sisters in this life and every life after. Nuan Yu was heaven's compensation to her. As she looked up, she let out a small sigh. Assistant Shen was half carrying a very disheveled Huo Lchin through the lobby. Pretend I didn't see that, this is so awkward. As they passed, she heard Huo Lchin's groggy, sleep-slurred voice. Heartless woman, Sujinuan, this young master will never acknowledge you again, would be a dog. Jinuan froze, her cheeks burning. Assistant Shen gave her a mortified look, laughing nervously. Sleep-talking, just sleep-talking, please don't take it seriously, Miss Su. But then he leaned in and whispered, you better not be faking sleep right now, young master. Sleep talk speaks the truest truths. I hope your young master remembers his own words. Jinuan could only manage an awkward laugh as they quickly shuffled away, the mortification palpable. A new message pinged on her phone. It was Nuan Yu again. My aunt has connections, she can get Huo Shaoxuan's contact info. Since Su Kingwin showed no mercy, don't blame us for playing dirty, we'll go straight to Huo Shaoxuan. A new resolve hardened in Jinuan's eyes. Asterisk tomorrow, I'll use Su Kingwin's name to lure him out, asterisk, dawn broke. Huo Lchin stirred in his bed, a soft groan escaping his lips. Huan, he mumbled, his dreams still clinging to him, but when his eyes fluttered open, the face he saw wasn't hers. Lindsia, he croaked, pushing himself up, why are you here? She smiled sweetly, holding a bowl of soup. I came to visit your mother and happened to see Assistant Shen bringing you home, she explained. Your mother asked me to stay and take care of you. His face darkened instantly. Get out, he roared, the sound ripping through the quiet room. He stormed out of the bedroom, calling for the butler. Don't presume to make decisions for me in the future, he seethed, by bringing random women into my home. His head throbbed, the bruise under his eye a testament to his drunken night. The butler bowed her head respectfully. "Young master, Miss Lin isn't some random woman," she said calmly. "She's the future young madam chosen by your mother." Huo Lchin scoffed, a bitter, humorless sound. "Who I marry is my choice. If she wants a wedding, I support her getting remarried herself." The butler's eyes widened in shock. "Young master, you mustn't say such things. Your mother would be furious." His voice was laced with years of resentment. "When my elder brother and I both got sick as children, she would only stay by his side," he said, his back turned to them. "Now that I'm grown, she suddenly wants to control everything." The butler tried to argue, but he was already gone, slamming the grand doors behind him with a crash that echoed his rage. The butler relayed his words to Madame Huo, who sat by her eldest son's bedside. Her face, initially soft with motherly concern, hardened into a mask of cold fury. "Did Lchin really say that?" she asked, her voice dangerously low. She listened as the butler recounted his defiance, his threat to leave the family. Her hand clenched the sheets. "Who doesn't want freedom? I want freedom too," she thought, her eyes flashing. "Everything he has was given by the Huo family. Marriage must consider family interests, otherwise he's just an ungrateful wretch." She took a deep breath, composing herself. "I know he's experiencing first love. Men inevitably go through immature impulses," she said, her voice regaining its steel. "Go comfort Lindsia for me. This marriage is determined. There can't be any mistakes." A cruel smile touched her lips. "If he wants freedom, let's see if he can escape the master's grasp. It won't be so easy." Huo Lchin, meanwhile, stormed into the Huo Corporation building. His face a thundercloud. "Where's Shen Yingji?" he bellowed, striding through the office. Shen appeared, a cheerful smile on his face, holding a cup of coffee. "Young master is here. I made you coffee." Huo Lchin's eyes narrowed. "It was you who brought me home yesterday," he stated, less a question than an accusation. "Put that down, come spar with me." Shen paled, waving his hands frantically. "Young master, I just ate, not good for exercise." But Huo Lchin was relentless, grabbing him by the collar. "You're just restless after eating, then throw it back up," he growled, ready to toss his assistant across the room. "Aya, spare me, young master," Shen yelped when suddenly a phone rang, a blessed interruption. "Young master, your phone's ringing, answer it first. Business is more important." Huo Lchin let him go with a huff. Shen scrambled to answer the call, his face a mask of relief. But as he listened, the color drained from his face, his eyes widened in panic. "What?" he gasped. He turned to Huo Lchin, his voice trembling. "Young master, trouble?" The scene cut to the reception room where a frantic Nguyen Yu was explaining the situation. Sujinuan's phone was off. Her family said she didn't come home. Her workplace confirmed she left normally. "We understand," Shen said, trying to calm her down. "You should go home now." But Nguyen Yu was having none of it. She grabbed Shen's arm, her eyes blazing. "Let me be blunt, did you people hide her?" Shen tried to restrain her. "Don't make trouble, go home and wait for news." But she fought back, screaming for them to let her go. Huo Lchin watched from the doorway, his playful anger completely gone, replaced by a terrifying stillness. Assistant Shen turned to him, his face pale. "Young master, should we handle this?" Huo Lchin didn't even look at him. His gaze was fixed on the space where Sujinuan should be, his voice low and sharp as cracking ice. "To the nightclub," he commanded. "Pull all surveillance footage within 50 miles. Investigate every single person in the area." In his eyes, a storm was brewing, and heaven help anyone who had dared to touch his woman. A voice cuts through the silence, addressing the man with eyes like chips of ice. "Young master." The assistant Shen steps forward, his expression grave as he presents a small, elegant handbag. It's a delicate, quilted thing, but it feels as heavy as a tombstone in this suffocating room. "This is Miss Su's handbag," he explains, his voice hushed. He gestures towards a woman cowering in the corner. "This woman Hong was caught using Miss Su's phone for multiple transactions. We apprehended her on the spot." The woman flinches, her face a mask of pure terror. Tears stream down her cheeks, her voice cracking as she pleads with the terrifying figure before her. "Young Master Hugo, I had nothing to do with this." Her body trembles, a leaf in a hurricane. "Sujinuan was kidnapped. I swear I just happened to pass by and picked up her bag. It wasn't my fault." But Huo Lchin's gaze doesn't soften, it hardens, a blade of polished steel. His voice is dangerously low, laced with a venom that makes the air crackle. He accused her. "You witnessed her kidnapping and just walked away like nothing happened? You couldn't even be bothered to call the police." His cold fury radiates through the room, a palpable force. The woman Hong breaks down completely, sobbing uncontrollably. She wailed that the men were dressed in black, driving a car, and that they dragged Sujinuan away right at the nightclub entrance. "I'm just a helpless woman," she cried, her voice thin and reedy. "What could I possibly do?" Just then, Shen's voice cuts in again, sharp and urgent. "Young master, surveillance footage from the nightclub entrance." He holds up a tablet, his own face pale with shock. The screen shows the horrifying truth. There in broad daylight is Sujinuan being violently forced into a black car, her desperate cries for help swallowed by the city noise. A cold dread washes over Huo Lchin. He leans closer, his eyes scanning every pixel of the footage. His breath hitches. A bead of sweat trickles down his temple as he zooms in on a tiny, almost imperceptible detail on the car. A family crest, his eyes narrow into slits, a storm of pure unadulterated rage gathering within them. A name forms on his lips, a bitter curse. The Lin family. The atmosphere in the room drops to sub-zero. The grand doors of the Lin family estate are thrown open, revealing a lavish interior. Lindsia, dressed to the nines, beams with delight. Lchin, she coos, her voice dripping with saccharine sweetness. You came to see me? She moves to embrace him, her happiness radiating. But his face is a thundercloud. He doesn't embrace her. Instead, his hand shoots out, grabbing her wrist in an iron grip. A dark aura seems to emanate from him, his eyes glowing with a terrifying red light. Lindsia, he growls, his voice a low rumble of thunder. Tell me where Sujinuan is. Lindzia's smile shatters, the shock and betrayal are stark on her face. Sujinuan, she shrieks, her voice filled with disbelief and outrage. You came here just for her? Fine, you've always been cold to me, but now you're humiliating me over another woman. The commotion draws bodyguards and assistant Shen, who rushes to intervene. Young Master Huo, release our young lady, let's discuss this calmly, one pleads. Shen quickly explains, his voice strained. The surveillance caught the Lin family's car taking Miss Su away. We just want to know where she is, Miss Lin. Why make this so difficult? He shoves the tablet in her face, showing the damning evidence. But Lindzia's face is twisted with defiance and jealousy. She spits her words at him. The woman you're looking for isn't here, not even if you kill me. That was the wrong thing to say. Something in Huo Lchin snaps. With a violent shove, he throws her back, his hand clamping around her delicate throat. Her breath is stolen from her lungs as he lifts her slightly off her feet. His face is inches from hers, his eyes blazing with a murderous light. A single word escapes his lips, a command that is also a death sentence. Talk, he hisses, or die. His bodyguards rush forward, shouting for him to let her go. Assistant Shen tries to pull him back, his face a mess of panic. Young master, you mustn't do this. Please, Miss Lin, just tell him. When our young master is furious, he'll stop at nothing. Lindsia claws at his hand, her face turning purple. Tears of rage and pain stream from her eyes. Are you insane? She chokes out. I've loved you for so many years. What's wrong with me? What does that bitch have that I don't? One of the bodyguards, seeing his lady about to pass out, finally cracks under the pressure. He screams in panic. Sujinuan's tied up on the beach west of the pier. The tide is high today. High tide, the words slam into Huo Lchin like a physical blow. His eyes widen in horror, he lets go. Lindsia crumples to the ground, gasping for air as her bodyguard rushes to her side. Huo Lchin doesn't spare her a second glance. He turns on his heel, his entire being focused on a single, terrifying thought. As he walks away, his voice drifts back, an icy promise that chills everyone to the bone. If a single hair on Sujinuan's head is harmed, I'll make you all pay. He moves like a phantom, a blur of motion racing against time. The scene shifts to a dark, desolate cliffside overlooking a churning sea. The waves crash against the rocks, merciless and cold. Sujinuan is tied to a wooden post, the frigid water already swirling around her waist. A gasp escapes her lips. So cold. Her teeth chatter, her body racked with shivers. She feels her strength, her consciousness being stolen by the freezing ocean. He speeds towards the pier, his car a screeching missile. He doesn't even wait for it to stop, bursting out of the door and sprinting towards the sound of the waves. As he rounds the corner, the sight that greets him stops his heart cold. There she is, a small, fragile figure against the vast, violent ocean, nearly submerged. The water is up to her chest, her head lolling to the side, her hair fanning out in the dark water. An inhuman roar of pure agony rips from his throat. Sujinuan. He and Shen stare in horror at the scene before them. She's tied up, barely conscious. Shen's voice is frantic. Young master, I have a pocket knife here, hurry. Without another thought, Huo Lchin plunges into the icy water, the cold a shock to his system, but nothing compared to the terror gripping his heart. He reaches her in seconds, his hands frantically working at the thick, wet ropes. He cups her face, his voice desperate. Sujinuan, hold on. Her eyes are closed, her face deathly pale, she's not breathing. Panic seizes him, he needs to get air into her lungs now. He lowers his head, his lips pressing against hers, forcing his own breath into her body. He pulls back, still sawing at the rope with the knife. With a final, desperate slice, the rope gives way. He pulls her into his arms, breaking the surface of the water with a great gasp. He holds her close, his heart pounding with relief. Sujinuan, thank goodness you're alive. She coughs weakly, water sputtering from her lips. Almost died, she whispers, shivering violently in his embrace. He pulls her tighter against him, his jacket soaking but his arms a shield against the world. I'm here now, he murmurs into her hair, his voice thick with emotion. You're safe, rest. He lifts her limp body into his arms and turns, his face set like stone. He barks an order to Shen to the hospital. In the pristine white corridor of the hospital, Assistant Shen stands with his phone pressed to his ear, his face etched with stress. On the other end, the madam's voice is sharp and furious. Assistant Shen, how could you let this happen? I told you to watch the young master, yet you let him cause such a huge incident. How am I supposed to explain this to the Lin family? Shen closes his eyes, a weary sigh escaping him. My apologies, madam, I failed in my duty. He feels the familiar weight of being caught between mother and son. He glances towards the closed door of the hospital room. What is the young master doing now? He tries to explain. Madam, it's a long story. The Lin family's bodyguards kidnapped Miss Sue and nearly killed her. The young master is furious. He's dead serious this time. I've never seen him so angry. He's vowed to ruin Miss Lin's reputation until she can't show her face anymore. The line goes silent, then static fills his ear as the call ends. Shen lowers the phone, the weight of the world on his shoulders. Inside the room, the scent of antiseptic hangs in the air. Huo Lchin gently dabs a cotton swab on Sujinuan's arm. Your wound is infected, he says softly. Bear with it. She winces, a small hum escaping her lips as the disinfectant stings. She opens her eyes, looking up at his focused expression. He is so gentle, so concerned. A mischievous thought sparks in her mind. Speaking of which, she begins, a playful smile gracing her lips. Someone got drunk last night, he told me. She leans in conspiratorially. If I pay attention to you again, I'm a dog. A blush creeps up Huo Lchin's neck. He leans in close, his voice a low growl. You drugged me last night, we haven't settled that account yet. She giggles, her cheeks puffing out. He can't help but smile, poking her cheek. Still laughing, you look like a pufferfish. The playful atmosphere suddenly shifts. The air becomes charged, thick with unspoken emotion. He leans closer, his hand coming up to gently cup her jaw. Their lips are just a breath apart. Her heart hammers in her chest. Asterisk, he truly cares about me. Asterisk, she thinks her soul's soaring. Asterisk, he worries about me. Asterisk. A wave of overwhelming emotion washes over her. Asterisk, I must have saved the galaxy in my past life. Asterisk. Asterisk, to have met him. Asterisk, in a moment of pure impulse, she reaches up, grabs his face, and kisses him. He freezes, his eyes wide with surprise. This is her first real kiss, given freely, filled with all the gratitude and affection in her heart. She pulls back, her face flushed, and whispers, I'm making amends. Will you accept? A slow smile spreads across his face. He closes his eyes and leans in, capturing her lips again in a much deeper, more passionate kiss. You think this is enough to appease me? He murmurs against her lips. You're underestimating me. He pulls her closer, and the world outside the room melts away. But the world has a funny way of intruding. The door creaks open and Assistant Shen walks in, freezing on the spot. He immediately spins around, a deep sigh escaping him. What a hardworking employee I am, he mutters to himself, quietly backing out of the room. As he turns, his phone vibrates in his pocket, he pulls it out. His blood runs cold, the caller ID reads, Old Master. With a trembling hand, he answers, Old Master, what are your orders? A voice like gravel and steel comes through the line, cold and authoritative. Tell the young master to return home immediately. Meanwhile, at a chic cafe, Lindzia's friends chatter away, their words dripping with malice. That woman Sujinuan is so delusional. How dare she compete with Zia for her fiancé? She should know her place. Another chimes in, exactly. I heard her mother cheated when she was little, like mother, like daughter, both shameless. Lindzia stirs her coffee, a smug, satisfied smile on her face. She declares, I'm the Huo family's chosen young madam. Who does she think she is? Right now, she's probably meeting the king of hell. One of her friends looks confused. Meeting the king of hell. Suddenly, a cold voice cuts through their laughter. What? A figure appears behind Lindzia and a hand violently grabs her hair, yanking her head back. Ah. Before anyone can react, Sujinuan shoves Lindzia's face into a nearby decorative basin, holding her head under the water. Bubbles rise to the surface as Zia struggles, her muffled cries for help unheard. After a terrifying moment, Su yanks her up by the hair. Zia gasps and sputters, water streaming down her face. Sujinuan's eyes are blazing with a cold, terrifying light. How does it feel to nearly drown? She asks, her voice a deadly whisper. I almost died in the sea, she continues, a cruel smile playing on her lips. But fate kept me alive to take revenge on you. Lindzia, terrified but still defiant, screams, How dare you do this to me? I'll tear you to pieces, you'll die horribly. Sujinuan laughs, a chilling, empty sound. My life's worthless, I fear nothing. She leans in close, her voice dropping. But you have so much to lose, your precious reputation, your family, your fiancé. Before killing me, Su says, her eyes glinting dangerously, you'd better worry about your own survival. With that, she slams Lindzia's head against the marble countertop. Lindzia crumples to the floor, unconscious. Sujinuan stands over her, then calmly drags her limp body away. She places the unconscious woman carefully on a bench. Taking out her phone, she looks down at Zia's prone form. No matter your status, she murmurs, now that you're in my hands, do you still think you can win? A sinister plan is already in motion. She had sent Huo Lchin a message, luring him here under Su Kingwin's name. And right on cue, he arrives. He looks around, confused. He's here, Sujinuan thinks, stepping out to greet him, probably looking for Kingwin. Young Master Xuan, hello, you remember me? She asks with a sweet smile. He looks at her, his disappointment obvious. It's you, what do you want? Her smile doesn't waver. You previously agreed to donate marrow matching my brother, she reminds him gently. Her eyes plead with him. I beg you, please don't change your mind because of others' words. He looks away, conflicted. Kingwin never mentions a brother. We share a father but have different mothers, she explains, her voice trembling slightly. My brother, he has no relation to Kingwin, but if you withdraw, he won't survive long. A pained expression crosses his face. He can't meet her eyes. I'm sorry, I promised Kingwin. She said she'd leave me if I saved that boy. He turns to walk away. Forgive me. Desperation claws at her throat. No, no, young Master Xuan, she cries, reaching for him. But just as her fingers are about to touch his sleeve, a hand shoots out, grabbing her arm and yanking her back with incredible force. She stumbles back into a hard chest, looking up in shock to see the icy, possessive eyes of Huo Lchin. A familiar voice cut through the air, sharp and filled with disbelief. Lchin. Shaun stood there, his eyes wide, his world crumbling as he saw Susanna in another man's arms. The words caught in his throat, a quiet surrender as he murmured, I have to go now, turning away with a flicker of a smile that didn't reach his devastated eyes. The sight was a dagger to Susanna's heart. No, he couldn't leave like this. She lunged forward, a desperate plea on her lips. Hey, wait. But it was too late. Her mind screamed in a silent panic. Oh no, he misunderstood everything. What should I do? What could she possibly do now? Before she could take another step, a strong hand gripped hers, pulling her back with an undeniable force. Dustin's grip was like iron, dragging her away from the scene, away from any hope of explaining herself. A wave of fury washed over her. She thrashed against his hold, her voice ringing with desperation. Let go, don't touch me. Of all the times for him to appear, why now? Why did he always have to ruin everything? He stopped, his shadow falling over her. His voice was a low, dangerous rumble that sent a shiver down her spine. Don't want me to touch you. His piercing blue eyes narrowed, boring into hers with an icy intensity. Who do you want touching you then? He sneered, the unspoken name, Shaun, hanging heavy in the air between them. Before she could even form a reply, his hand shot out, tangling in the depths of her hair and yanking her head back with a sharp tug. Her protest died in her throat as he leaned in, his face just inches from hers. He was being completely unreasonable. This man was a devil, and in that split second, his lips crashed down on hers. The world exploded into a whirlwind of shock and heat. Her eyes flew wide, a furious blush creeping up her neck and setting her cheeks on fire. Is he crazy? Is he actually doing this in public? She tried to push him away, her hands flat against his unmoving chest. But it was useless. He deepened the kiss, a possessive, claiming act that stole the very breath from her lungs. Gasps erupted from the people around them. Oh my God, isn't that young Master Huo? One woman whispered in shock. Another chimed in, her voice dripping with gossip. He's actually kissing another woman in front of everyone. Those voices belonged to Sujinuan's friends who were searching for their missing companion. Mortified, Susanna pushed against him again, her words a frantic, muffled plea. Everyone's watching, she hissed. Let me go already. Dustin finally pulled back, but only an inch. A low, arrogant chuckle rumbled in his chest. HMPH. And then in one swift motion, he hooked an arm under her knees and lifted her off the ground. A startled scream escaped her lips. Ah. He held her effortlessly in a princess carry, a smirk playing on his lips. What are you doing? She shrieked, struggling in his arms. Huo Lchin, put me down right now. Aren't you just making more of a spectacle? He completely ignored her, striding purposefully towards a sleek, black limousine. The car door was yanked open and he unceremoniously deposited her inside. As she scrambled to sit up, his voice came, laced with a dark promise. If you keep struggling, he warned, his eyes glinting, I'll give them something even more exciting to watch. Her entire body went rigid. The threat was clear. Defeated, she slumped against the leather seat, muttering through gritted teeth, Fine, you win, I'll behave. From the tinted window, she saw them. Sujinuan and her posse standing there, mouths agape. Sujinuan's face was a twisted mask of pure, unadulterated rage, the faint red mark of a handprint still visible on her cheek. A wicked idea sparked in Susanna's mind. She leaned deliberately against Dustin, a smug, possessive smile gracing her lips as she rested a hand on his chest. The reaction was immediate. Sujinuan's eyes burned with hatred, a low growl rumbling in her chest. Damn woman, she seethed internally, how dare she compete with me? I'll pay her back 100-fold. HMPH, if you dare provoke me, be prepared for my revenge. Susanna's smile widened. She casually lifted her phone, making sure it was visible. Oh, you have no idea who you're messing with? I still have plenty of compromising photos and videos. We'll see who ends up more embarrassed. With a final, triumphant smirk, the car pulled away from the curb, leaving a fuming Sujinuan in its dust. Inside the luxurious limousine, an unnerving silence descended. The car was so quiet, almost soundproofed. A flicker of unease went through her. She turned to find Dustin staring at her, his gaze intense and unwavering. She shifted uncomfortably, asking what he was looking at. He leaned closer, his warm breath ghosting over her skin as he murmured, Am I not good enough to look at? Heat flooded her cheeks. She whipped her head away, unable to meet his gaze, stammering, What nonsense. His voice was a soft whisper against her ear as he said her name. He nuzzled the sensitive skin of her neck, sending electric tingles through her entire body. A shocked gasp escaped her. Don't. He pulled back just enough to look at her, his hand gently tilting her chin up. No, he asked, his voice a low thrum of temptation. His eyes darkened with a predatory gleam. If you don't want to use your hand. His thumb traced the outline of her lips, a featherlight touch that made her tremble. There's a better way. The implication was so clear it made her blush crimson. She glared at him, her voice barely a squeak. You're such a perv, Dustin. He leaned in, his lips brushing against her ear as he whispered, if I were a perv, I wouldn't still be waiting. He took her hand, his fingers lacing through hers as the car drove on. He then gently took a handkerchief and began wiping her hand clean. The car began to slow and a thought struck her. Oh no, Chapman is going to despise me for this. He was making his poor driver circle the block just to spend more time with her. Dustin seemed to read her mind, bringing her hand to his lips and placing a soft kiss on her knuckles. Up front, Chapman gripped the steering wheel, his face a mask of pure agony. Seriously, they're still at it? I've made 2 laps around the hospital already. Desperate to change the subject, Susanna asked, what were you doing at the cafe? Aren't you supposed to be home? He answered her question with one of his own, giving her cheek a playful pinch. I could ask you the same thing. Why did you leave the hospital so soon? His playful demeanor vanished, replaced by a shadow of annoyance. Dad was coming down on me heavily when the nurse called and told me you were gone, he explained, his eyes darkening. He must be furious with me for walking away from our conversation. How could you even ask me that? His gaze turned sharp, serious. So what's the deal with you and Shaun? He demanded. I'd like an explanation. Susanna's jaw tightened. She looked away, her voice cool. It's my personal business. I don't want to talk about my problems. She sighed, adding, but I can assure you there's nothing going on between us. Her face was a solemn mask. Dustin's voice softened, but his words were firm. Like I said before, your problems are my problems and your needs are my needs. Don't be afraid to ask for help. She pushed at his chest, her patience wearing thin. I remember every word. I didn't agree to that, did I? A smirk touched his lips, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Tusk, you really hold a grudge, he teased. You're so petty. She huffed, crossing her arms and turning away with a pout. And you're a dog. Suddenly the world lurched as the brakes screeched violently. Susanna cried out as she was thrown forward, her head colliding with the seat in front of her. Dustin's arm shot out, grabbing her and pulling her back against his chest. He roared at the driver, what the hell, Chapman? Chapman's voice was panicked and shaky. Sorry, Mr. Mulligan, a dog came out of nowhere. They had arrived back at the hospital. Dustin opened the door, his tone leaving no room for argument. You need to rest, don't go running off again. He scooped her back into his arms and stepped out of the car. As he did, a young woman in a pale blue hospital gown stumbled nearby, tripping over her own feet. Chapman, who had just gotten out of the driver's seat, lunged forward, catching her just before she hit the pavement with a grunt. The woman looked up, her eyes widening in delighted recognition. Mr. Chapman, what a coincidence running into you here. Chapman stared at her, utterly bewildered. What are you talking about? I don't know you, let go of me. He tried to pry her hands off his arm, a frantic blush creeping up his neck. But she clung to him, her voice rising excitedly. It's me, Lily, don't you remember me? You paid me to pretend to be a pregnant woman and crash a date the other day. The words echoed in the quiet parking lot. Susanna's head snapped around in Dustin's arms. Wait a minute, that voice, her eyes widened. Hang on, it's you. The memory clicked into place. This was the actress from the cafe. You're the lady who accused me of stealing your husband. Lily's face contorted with rage as she pointed an accusing finger at Susanna. You, she shrieked, her voice filled with venom. You're the reason all of my dates failed. If it weren't for you, I would have been married by now. Amidst the chaos and the bizarre accusation, Susanna felt a gaze on her. She looked up to see Dustin watching her, a calm, almost amused expression on his handsome face. A small smile played on his lips as he asked softly, Are you upset with me?